It's Friday, July 26th, 2024. Let's start off with our usual promotional segment where I tell you that if you'd like to support our show, I have good news for you. It's really easy. All you have to do is go to supportourshow.com and that'll let you support our show without .com. See? Easy. After I, got the wrong URL and spelled it wrong, but got the right one. So eventually, I made it very easy. In the beginning, I probably made it confusing, and I really hope nobody... Well, actually, no, that site was taken, so you wouldn't have gone to a shady site. It just would have taken you to a confusing site for what I was describing it as. But that was very quickly resolved after my 2 weeks of great pride in my ability to get a great domain and to realize that I just didn't know how to spell in what is my native language. Such is the odyssey of support on this show.
Yeah, you know what? Is there really anybody supporting the show at this point?
Actually, yeah. We did get a new Patreon person today. So,
really?
This very day.
That baffles me.
Well, no, I mean, it's he's been on the show before, Ant Pruitt, who's a very good photographer and a fellow content creator. And we basically have like a mutual support network where...
Holy shit. Did you just call yourself a content creator?
No, I said he was one.
Oh, okay. Oh, no, you said
fellow. That's technically true.
I know. It's just a very something term.
I don't like it. However, I am about 65% into editing a video where I'm on the camera now, along with Doug, for RoboCop 2 and Predator 2. So I have crossed some kind of line now.
Did you? I mean, you're doing video podcasting now?
I kind of am. Yeah, I actually bought a better camera.
Man, you said you would never do that.
I'll tell you why. I realized something. I don't want to do it, but the videos I've done before, I've watched some of them and I find them boring because it is just a static. Well, I mean, it's animated, but it's like just a tape revolving. And if I'm going to put it on YouTube and there's visual element, here's the problem with it that I realized that I never considered as the person creating it. I want people to watch the videos because I'm giving examples when there's stuff playing and we're citing things. And so I'm putting that imagery into the videos. But if you sit there and for 20 minutes you see a static image, you don't pay attention anymore. Unless I keep saying, hey,
video-wise, you don't pay attention. You pay attention to the audio, but not the video.
Right, but in other words, then why am I putting any of the video in there? The problem is you lose. That's the thing, is I realized this, and Doug, too, is now doing video where he didn't want to, but he's kind of realized that there's a dynamism to it.
I think that it's very funny.
It's fucking terrible, because I realized I've got this twitch that I do, this thing I do.
That's why it's so funny.
Yeah, I hate it.
It's
kind
the
of.
Whole, no, I'll never pole dance. Never. And then there you are.
Well, but I realized that there is a point to it because I wouldn't watch it. So I can't reasonably expect people to do what I won't do.
Your evolution on the notion. I find it comedic, but also endearing.
The other thing about it is it's allowing me to challenge myself a bit because it's not just static video of our faces. So in the RoboCop one, I did the overlay of Kane's HUD on me, and I did RoboCop's overlay on Doug. And I even got the font right, and I did the little menu for Kane. So like on Doug's thing, it's got the green text with like the blinking cursor, which I had to figure out how to do. It's not as simple as it sounds. And then I had to create a background where when we're both talking, we're both on these TVs in front of kind of a concrete wall, and there's a poster of RoboCop 2. So it's allowing me, it isn't just our faces sitting there. I'm doing more than that. So it isn't,
appreciate the evolution.
Yeah, I don't appreciate it. I don't like it. Because like I said, now I have to really focus on this tick I've got. And the reason for it is because... Tick? Oh, you'll see it. You will notice that in the video it'll be to your left, but it's my right. Oh, it is right. My right shoulder, because I move my hands a lot. But in the video, my hands are below the frame.
So why don't
so
you
my
have
shoulder jumps.
Why don't you have a separate camera pointed just at your hands?
No, I'm not.
Put that in its own screen.
I'm not doing a multicam setup for my. No. What I did was I realized Doug had his camera was really good, and mine wasn't. I said, well, what are you using? And he told me, so I got that camera. Because that lets you zoom in, so you'll be seeing more of, it'll be zoomed in, and it'll be clearer, so I can kind of cut it out a bit. And I'm just paying attention to what I'm doing now more, so I'm just kind of being more self-aware.
This is like the evolution of listening to how you talk.
Well, yeah,
and realizing and cutting out all the drift words in between that a lot of people use when they're just fucking around.
Yeah, see, and that's I'm not concerned about that. I don't care.
But here's the thing: you already have. You've been doing
that's an organic thing. Yeah, this was me looking, going, oh God,
happens. No, but this is an organic thing as well. You see yourself, then you go, holy shit, I did what?
Also means I have to wear a shirt, which sucks.
Oh yeah. Now, granted, I always get dressed up. I don't get dressed up for this, but I always wear a shirt.
Because nobody would ever know.
I've been wearing a suit for this show since
I never wear a shirt when we do our show. I never wear shirts. I don't wear shirts at home ever. Plus, I'm in the goddamn Satan's asshole here, so it's bad news.
Yeah.
Look at the thing for the week, and it's 100 or better every day. It's
hell.
Not great.
It's hell. Just as hell.
I don't even want to look at my energy bill for this month. I know what it's going to be.
High hell.
It'll be high hell, all right.
I can't even imagine what recording myself visually, the things I might notice.
The biggest thing that I think I do well, because I will give credit to myself in certain areas, is I look at the camera very, very, because a lot of people don't.
I don't know.
Your natural inclination is to look at, especially when you're doing video with somebody else, your inclination is to look at the person, not the camera.
I have 1,000 works of art on the walls in my office. My eyes constantly wander. Or worse yet, I shut my eyes down altogether and I start kind of looking at what's in my head, and I get this like weird drift look. My kids haven't gotten used to that yet. So every now and then, like, I'll be at lunch or something like that, and I'll start thinking about something, and I'll start to wander off, and I'll just arbitrarily be looking at something, and my kids will be like, "What are you looking at?" I'm like, "Nothing. I'm not looking at anything. I've just shut my eyes down. I'm looking. I'm inside, doing something." So yeah, I'd be horrible for that. Honestly, the big thing for me would be making sure my beard doesn't look insane. That would bother me.
People would like that. People like when things are visually unusual.
I know, but I don't. I don't want my beard to be a little bit nice.
I mean, the only like I said, that's the only thing I really have. It's the only real video thing that I was very on top of right from the beginning is look at the camera when I'm talking. And that way, you appear to be looking at the viewer. I mean, because
that would feel weird, just staring at the camera.
Well, okay. I'm not staring the whole time like a dead eye.
I know that, but I know what you mean. It's just it seems unnatural. That's all. Which it is.
Well, some people when they do it, it is unnatural because you can tell. Again, I'm giving myself the slightest credit because most things I would critique the shit out of. There are people who, when they're looking at the camera, you can tell they've locked their body. It's really strange, but you can once you see it, you can't not notice people doing it, or they
Yeah.
lock themselves into a still frame. I don't do that.
I'm
I
not
still
moving
move
from
around.
this position.
Right.
I
And I
see,
think
yeah.
it's because they're concentrating. I understand it. It's not a natural thing. Your natural inclination. The only thing I figured out that if anybody cares about it, doing something like this, the one thing that will help you, because I made this mistake was, and then what I did was I made his video window small and pushed it to the top center of the monitor. Because when it's big, your eyes drift to the center of your monitor.
Drawn to it.
Yeah, whereas when it's small and you're kind of looking up anyway, it's very easy to keep you. And even if you then look at the video, it's not as obvious because it's towards the top and it's small. So your eye, I don't know, pupil centric, whatever, is pretty close to where the camera is anyway. So it's like I'm not going to get a teleprompter and all the crap that some people do. People have crazy setups. I've seen them.
Well,
I don't
people,
have,
people want to come off as, I guess, some kind of professional, right?
Of course, I did buy another light. So I bought one. I bought a light that was so.
You just keep digging yourself
No,
deeper
no,
in this one.
no, but this is
You're
no,
like,
but
no,
I,
it
but
makes
then
sense. No, I'm not going to do anything else for it, but I did do this.
No,
Okay,
no, but
we'll get
but
the shovel.
Then I
Let's just
reversed
dig a little
because
deeper.
when that light came, and I picked up just the holder for it, I went, nope, this is for a professional, and I sent it right back. I was like, no. This is, and so instead I grabbed this lantern that I had for
You
emergencies,
didn't get one
like
of those
a
halo
rechargeable.
lights that gives you that weird eye effect.
Well, I have a little Logitech thing that it goes on the monitor, but it's the light is the size of a coaster. Like a coaster for a drink. This
Yeah.
thing I bought without I didn't look at the measurements. It was as big as a 8x12 frame. The light.
That's a big light.
Yeah, and so imagine the pole
That's a lot
that was
of
meant
light.
to be mounted on a desk to hold it.
Man.
And I took it out, I held it and went, no,
I mean,
sir.
honestly, you get a light like that, you better get some makeup too.
Well, I did get gels to make color. It's just pieces of plastic with color.
No, I meant makeup.
Oh
on
no,
your
I don't
face.
care. See that shit doesn't matter to me. I don't care about that.
Because the
I
light like that will drain you, make you look like a corpse.
I've had Italian skin for so long, I don't care anymore. Of all the things that I could have wrong with me chronically, bad skin, fuck you. I don't care. It ain't leukemia. It ain't cancer. I'm not missing a limb. I ain't missing fingers. I have both my eyes. Whatever. I'm far past that vanity.
The
Way past
the age of visual media has begun for you.
Yeah, well, I have been on video before, but it was always on somebody else's thing.
Heartbeat Hero, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna be his interview guest in a couple weeks, I think. So it's kind of good at getting this stuff now.
He's gonna interview you.
Yeah, I'm as surprised as you. No, seriously, because I'm not a musician. I mean, he follows my artistic, so I guess it's as a creator.
It's an art interview.
I guess.
Listen, you know what? You're fun to talk to. I'm sure it'll be a great interview.
I do generally have good energy on his show, so maybe it's that.
Energy's good.
I don't know what else it could be. I'm not that fascinating. So
You have an opinion. You're energetic about it.
I got lots of those.
Lots
Yeah.
of opinions.
Yeah.
I have many assholes. Yeah.
I have opinion bloat. So
Yeah.
there's a show title.
I also
Opinion
suffer
bloat.
from opinion bloat.
Yeah, it's if all the bloats to have, I'd prefer that one. So I'm okay with
That's
it.
funny. That's very funny.
But yeah, because for the Predator episode, because you won't. Okay, I made 2 mistakes in the RoboCop episode. Whatever, you'll see them. There's no point in even trying to cover it up. One is the shoulder thing, which I think I got more under control in the Predator episode. Because I watched that video and went, oh.
So how many videos have you done on your OnlyFans account?
Oh, no. This is the first one where we were, because Doug was on his
It's 2
camera.
parts. It's 2 parts.
Two
That's
parts.
Right. Yeah.
It's
Predator's
5
doing
hours
it
long.
Yeah.
So get used to, well, and I do cut. I that's what I mean. It is helping me with the idea of editing because I'm paying attention to like who's speaking and doing transitions and full screening whoever is the speaker and, then doing the 2 shots. So
basically, doing this show is like the easiest thing that you do.
Oh, God, this is so... Okay, let me tell you how much... Because here's the other problem. Just so you have an idea of this.
Yeah.
He does the video recording because he
Yeah.
has a Zoom professional account, and Zoom does much better video than Skype, period.
Okay.
So he's recording his video, my video, in a unified screen with the two of us on it. So it's basically like
Yeah.
two images next to each other, two 1920, two widescreens, like your full monitor twice, one image. He's recording his audio so we get the best quality. I'm recording my audio. And then there is my recording of his audio and the Zoom recording of both our audio. I have to line all of that audio up, number one. And the problem is, because we're recording on different machines and different systems, there's drift. So every 10 minutes of the video, after I've resized his video, put it on its own video track, resized my video to be full screen on mine, done the overlays, set the overlays, then I have to have one where it's the two of us that I separate into the two TVs. This is just the RoboCop episode. So there's 3 different video streams with the overlays. Then I have to go through and offset our audio so that our lips aren't out of sync with our audio on the high quality tracks. Now, it's not that it's difficult, but I have to do it.
An easier way than that.
If anybody, there are people I know who do a lot of different production stuff. If anybody knows, I'm using Premiere Pro. I'm not going to use Final Cut. I'm not relearning a new one. I know how this thing works. Defects and all, I know how it works. So if somebody's aware of some way because Adobe does have a lot of autocorrect stuff. I actually had to use it because here, speaking of mistakes, I used a lav mic for the first part and it sounded not good. For whatever reason, on my art stream, the lav mic is fine. But on this, no. It was not great audio. So I'll tell you up front, the audio is not great in the first one. Then I went to this mic for the second one. The reason I did the lav was because you really can't see the mic. That was the point. Was okay.
What's wrong with seeing the mic?
It's my nitpick. Nobody complains
Okay.
about it. I don't like it.
Okay.
I like the clean visual. If you're going to have to look at me, I don't want something intruding in front of my face. Which maybe I should want that. So maybe this was,
You
universal.
dress it up. Have it be something fun. Put a little hat on it.
Well, that's okay. So that's why when I got that light and returned it, and I realized I didn't have it in time for the Predator one, because I wanted to have like green lighting, because Predator. So
Yeah.
I grabbed this lamp, this LED rechargeable lamp, and I just taped the gel onto it. And so you will see a green light from this just lamp that I have sitting here that is on the side of it. And that video or that audio is much better because I'm using this mic.
I am surrounded by was it those nanolith lights? So
Yeah,
like there's like
you
a
would have
constant-
natural lighting.
Yeah, there's like because remember one time we were where was it? We were FaceTiming or something like that because I think we were having technical difficulties, and you were like,
Yeah, that's
is
right.
there a rave there?
Yeah. So see, your setup is much better. I couldn't do that because I have all this artwork on the wall. I'm not going to rearrange all of it. It's too much work.
Oh yeah, it's a good point. Yeah, my camera is pointed at the lights on the wall, not the art.
Yeah. Whereas I have,
all
I'm
these little
surrounded.
things you got to think about. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm surrounded too. It's just that's the one wall it's not on. So
That's
it's
where
funny
so
how he points
you
at that.
inadvertently have a better setup naturally for that
That's
type of thing
really
than I do.
funny.
So
Well, it's interesting and it's amusing.
Yeah.
And but I mean, listen, you've got more of an interest in the outside world.
Well, I also, like I said, it is. I do enjoy. Well, enjoy is an interesting word for it. Video editing is miserable. There's no way around it. Video editing is one of those things where when you can think in your mind of the finished product, it's exciting. When you get to the finished product,
Listen,
it's exciting. The middle sucks.
You like the end result. Doing it is a pain in the ass, but you like the end result.
Mostly because I keep running into my technical limitations. I got lucky.
That's great.
The overlays for the RoboCop thing were pretty easy to mimic. I'm trying to do the Predator vision for the Predator thing. I haven't gotten to that yet, but I don't think it's going to be very easy.
No, it's great to hit your limitations. It's great to know your limitations. I love it.
Yeah. We'll see how it turns out. We'll see.
But at the end of the day, there's some of these things you do because you do them for yourself. You're at that point where you do them for yourself. You don't do them for other people anymore because like no one requires you to do all that work to make it look like that. But you do.
There has not been anybody who said, at least not recently, oh, it'd be great if you were actually on the video. Like there's been nothing like that. But like I said, I started noticing when I was watching it that I kind of wasn't. I'm editing it and I'm like getting bored looking at it. And, oh, that's not great. So You know,
There you
I cannot reasonably expect others to stay engaged with something if I myself can't, just because I don't want to see my face. That's a kind of a dick thing to do. You know.
Well, get some special effects. Put on a fake nose. Have some fun with it.
Or if I had recorded it and I'd been really bad, then I would just not have released it. I always will have the audio.
That. No, there's
you know,
that.
if I had like done that locked off thing, because I was kind of worried, because you when you're speaking, you have your mental image of yourself, but that's not really necessarily accurate.
No, it's not. It's definitely not, because
Right.
remember when I was on that debate for the public seat up in Vermont?
Oh, I still have screen grabs of that.
And you were like, you look. What did you say? I look like a mobster or something.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, I think it said you look like Russian mafia or something like that.
You look you look like an enforcer. And I remember I saw my photo. I'm like, yeah, but I was like, that's not what I look like. But the thing is, you only see this squared off suit from like the like almost like the chest up. And it's like, yeah, it looks far more severe than it is.
Right.
So you never look like what you think.
And that's what I mean about like the shoulder. I don't notice it when I'm doing it, but on the video, I can't not see it. So in the Predator one, I got a lot better about it. I was kind of more aware. And so I just tried to kind of make my movements more smooth as opposed to jagged. I think that's what it is. I jerk my hands around. So when I kind of rolled my movements a little bit more smoothly, it softens everything, and it's less jarringly kinetic than it was.
Stick your hands in your pockets.
I can't do that.
No?
You would no. I can't. Oh God, that's uncomfortable. I'm doing it right now. Trying to talk like this. Yeah, of course I'm standing. I'm always standing.
Then put your hands in your pockets.
I am.
You can't do that like some Goomba standing at the corner with your hands in your pockets.
I'm starting to squirm.
Oh,
I
see.
I don't like having my hands in my pockets.
Oh, I like to have my hands in my pockets. Yeah.
No, I almost never have my hands in my pockets.
It's funny.
All.
Lately, this is the terrible thing about workout equipment. At one point, probably almost close to a year ago, maybe a little less, I got one of those bikes at your that you have at your desk, like a desk bike.
Oh sure, yeah.
And I did it because I can't remember what I did to myself. I got hurt, and I needed to do something where I was like basically using my legs. Can you hear that, by the way?
Can I hear what? The bike?
Can you hear the workout bike? Yeah.
No, probably because it's too far under where the mic's...
Man, that thing is so quiet. Okay.
Yeah.
So this thing is like ultra quiet. But the funny thing about it is I got it.
Who makes it?
Who does make this thing? This is Lifespan.
Lifespan or span?
Yeah.
It must be span.
Lifespan. Span. S-P-A-N. Lifespan. Yeah. This is like their most basic model. It's like it's got no engine on it. It's got no...
okay, this is... I got to search for more than that. Hold on. Bike.
Yeah, it's got no... it doesn't even have any resistance. It basically just keeps you in motion.
Oh, yeah,
right?
okay, I see. They're home fitness bikes. Oh, okay.
So quiet. But the funny thing is that... So I use it sometimes, but it's always kind of under my desk. So when I come to do the podcast some nights where I'm tired, I kind of stand for half the show.
Yeah.
I just pull the bike out and I just end up sitting in it like a chair. Because it's not it's not like I'm sitting on a bike seat. It's like a recumbent. So like I kind of sit back on it. But it's the height of my standing desk.
Yeah.
So I just find myself sitting on it. I've probably sat more in this thing than I've sat in any chair.
Right.
Just because it's there, it rolls out, it rolls away. And if my legs get squirmy, I can pedal and you won't hear it.
Yep.
I just heard the whistle in your background.
Well, yeah. So here's the other nice
Sorry,
thing is
it got quiet. It got quiet, and all of a sudden I heard like a cop yelling.
Because I realized I hadn't turned on the city background, and I was like, crap. But I can just insert it from the beginning. Nobody's ever going to know except that I mentioned.
No, that's true. Yeah. it just got quiet for a second. And I just heard the whistle.
Well, that's another thing that I'm learning in the video editing is there was points where if I made a funny face or something, I would just cut to Doug. Like, okay, I'll just edit around myself. So there's certain if you're eagle-eyed, if you're watching it, you may notice certain jarring sudden cuts. That usually either means that I like almost fell over, which did happen twice, where I suddenly just lost my goddamn balance, or that like I subconsciously started rubbing my eye when I wasn't thinking about it, and it looks gross, even though it looks like I'm stabbing myself in the eye, even though it's just that my eye's itching. So there are those things too. That is the downside of
you're going to be harder on yourself than anybody is going to be hard on you.
Yeah, so. But that's okay. You know,
All right, so
that's how it goes.
explain to me now, because you know this stuff better than I do.
Okay.
What the hell happened with all this IT meltdown shit?
Oh, you're talking about the CrowdStrike stuff?
Yeah,
Oh.
explain this to me, because I
Okay.
understand it on a basic level, but I want to get it from you, because you
Yeah,
can always
sure.
find a way to like
this is
train it
actually
to perfection.
all right. So, what we're going to be discussing is because there are multiple investigations that are going to be taking place. There's already, I think, the SEC. I know the president was briefed on it because of the extent of it. There's going to be extensive, and it's going to take a while before we really know. So, as of the moment, or relatively the moment, the current story is because
it'll change. Like it'll change.
And they've already hedged a little bit from the initial stuff. They've already kind of backed off of the absolute answer to, as far as we know, type of thing. So, and I will say, one thing I am happy about is I had done a 5 right after it happened, or, within a day or so, whatever, saying, I really hope this starts to bring awareness to the severe issues we have with how these systems are reliant on small groups of companies. And I am hearing that now in normal mainstream media, is them saying, yeah, this is probably bad that we have everything like this. And they're right. So at least there is that out of this mess, because there have been outages of this scale, but they have generally been restricted to singular products or companies, meaning you can have where a hospital gets a ransomware attack. There was just one in London or someplace where the hospital couldn't do anything for a week, but it was just that hospital. It didn't bring down all the hospitals.
Yeah, it strained things, but it didn't shut things down.
Exactly. So what happened here is there's essentially 3 pieces involved. What was happening is most businesses, or I shouldn't say most, many businesses employ a cybersecurity product called CrowdStrike, which I think is both the product and the company's name, which is never smart. I believe CrowdStrike is both the product and the name. Because I'm pretty. What do they call? It may have a secondary. It's called Cyber. I think it's CyberStrike is the actual name of the product. Yeah, there it is. Falcon Sensor is a vulnerability scanner. So that's the product. CrowdStrike is the company.
It's called CrowdStrike.
Falcon Sensor. Oh, these all have these kind of great name type things. Yeah. So that's true. Wow, it has its own.
What's the name of your cybercrime software? It's called Bro.
It's called Falcon Sensor, bro. So this incident now has its own wiki page, which I will link to. That is amazing. The 2024 CrowdStrike incident is what its page is called. That is stupefying. So what happened is a lot of companies...
It's not stupefying. It's not stupefying at all, because there's wikis for fucking anything at this point.
No. I mean the scale of this. That
it already has one.
And it's extensive. So
because it did a lot of damage.
So basically, CrowdStrike is I think up until now it was either the number 1 or number 2 cybersecurity software vendor for enterprise. I don't know where it is now because its stock went down like 15% or so, and I don't know how much they'll really be able to. I think people will be moving off
they'll
it.
just change their names.
I said that to somebody. I said that exact thing. But so
it's
again,
like Blackwater. Blackwater just was
right,
like, you guys
XE Assassins, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
I don't know if I made that. I may have made that joke on this show or in one of those videos where I said, "Oh, just change your name to XE Assassins. It'll be fine." And so what happened is CrowdStrike has this thing, and it runs on Windows machines. It also does run on Macs. I don't know if it has a Linux presence, but there was an update. They're saying, because nobody knew what was going on at first, what CrowdStrike is saying is, as far as they know, they've added that caveat now. As far as they're aware, this was not a hacking-related anything. Somebody put out or pushed through, because this stuff all just updates automatically. And usually it's because, okay, let's say, I don't know, France is made aware through something that there's a threat. And so basically they'll, everybody reports back, they identify a threat, and then they try to strengthen the computers against it so that somebody can't get into your machines. Because in an enterprise, you get into an enterprise network, you can bring the whole place down. That's ransomware, everything else. So the theory is a protection model that is instantly updated so that your entire place is protected. And they do that through these back-end patches. They're usually over the air. They run them usually at night. This did occur sometime between Thursday the 16th or 17th and then Friday morning. where this patch went through. And so there was a file that was one of many that was put into a folder. And what it did was on Windows machines specifically, and what's coincidence, I just said coincidence, what coincidentally also or not, we don't know yet, again, we'll see, is the Azure product that Microsoft maintains, which is their cloud platform, was also having an outage right before this happened, which does seem interesting if this was in fact just two unrelated weird things.
Suspicious, but
suspicious, but possible. Possible.
Yeah.
Could be just bad timing. So this file got inserted.
A correlation is not causation.
That's correct. So we don't know. We will know at some point. This is too big a thing for us not to know. Or if we never get any more information, then you know what's going on.
I don't think you're going to get any more information. I think they're going to come up with some hooey
story.
No.
No. If it is a fault of the company, it will come out because they're going to get sued into oblivion. So it will come out.
Oh yeah, because they're not a big company themselves, right? They're
big, but
they're big, but they've fucked over bigger companies.
Yes.
Yes, they are the smaller. They are the smaller shark in the pool of sharks.
They impacted public safety. They were knocking out 911 because of this. You do not get away with that. If it was in fact that somebody who is now ultra fired pushed through an update by accident or without proper testing, which just the fact that this was released without proper testing indicts the company itself.
Yeah.
So this is what I mean about if you never hear anything else, then this was somebody else. If it is CrowdStrike, they will be identified, much like Boeing with their planes that fall apart now. They are going to be going to Congress. They will be sued. They will be probably non-existent or absorbed into some other company that will strip out all the people that were responsible and then just take their tech. Whatever the result, this file was placed, and if your machine was left on, it was an interesting race at one point where, depending on how the machine booted, you might actually be able to catch it and get rid of the file before it blue screened the device, but most devices did not. So when they rebooted, or when they were started the next day, assuming nobody told you what to do to mitigate it, which was to initiate a safe, well, there are multiple fixes. The one that I know of that's the most widespread that works is you would have to put your machine into safe mode, you would navigate to this folder, you would delete the file, reboot, and everything was fine. That was it. Just had to get rid of that file because it was interrupting something. It was screwing with Windows. So people, and this is also servers. So it's not just end user machines, but let's say you had, and a lot of places they use virtual machines. A lot of stuff is Linux based. So not, depending on how your organization was laid out, you may not have known anything about this. Macs were unaffected, even though they can run CrowdStrike. Whatever this was didn't affect Macs. So Macs and Linux based boxes, Linux wasn't affected.
It's a different file structure, isn't it?
And that's what I mean about this is a byproduct of Windows layers of legacy code that allows them to be dominant. The problem with that is that you're also susceptible to these things far more than, say, Mac, where they'll just be like, we're blowing that OS away now. Bye. And we're just starting over.
Which is good. I mean, listen, all of this is good and bad for various different reasons.
Yes, various different reasons. Linux is one of those things, too, where the nature of it makes this tougher to do without somebody noticing. I'm not saying it's impossible. You can fry any system. But it's a lot easier with Windows in a lot of ways. So Windows is particularly susceptible to certain changes at the level at which these changes were made.
And there's so many older versions of Windows that are still running on government computers, keeping, water systems going, shit like that.
Correct. And
didn't they say XP has outlived its 2?
Oh, easily. Oh no, there are still Windows 3.3 or there's older machines even than that still running in places because, in fact, I think Japan just got rid of diskettes, the floppy disks for their government stuff within the last 5 years. Because, listen, when the stuff works, you don't mess with it. That's a fundamental of government and large enterprise. Don't mess with it.
Updating the entirety of a system can be costly.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So when this file got updated, people came in and, oh, gee whiz, I have a blue screen. And rebooting did not fix it, which is traditionally what you do with some of those.
How many computers did they say they killed?
Well, okay, none of them were...
That they blue screen.
Oh, I don't even know. Do they even have a number? Let's take a look. Because it would have to be...
Thousands.
Millions. No.
Was it millions? Oh,
no.
There you go. Even bigger.
Listen, they were stopping flights.
Oh, I know.
Well, think about how many.
Did you see?
So let's see.
Did you see the map that they put out?
Yes.
So there's a map that shows you basically what the flight traffic looked like before this happened, and then it shows you in real time. Well, in real time, the map.
Here's the number. You want to hear the number?
What is it? Go ahead.
The estimate from Microsoft: 8.5 million devices.
Oh God.
Yeah. Yeah. And there is that interesting thing where it was moving because of the time zone differences, and when computers were forced rebooted,
watching it move around the world.
Yeah.
Yeah, they show the air traffic in real time, and they show how when this problem happened, suddenly the traffic went down to almost nothing. Like didn't they say? I think it was like Southwest was one of the only airlines that was still running, and it's because they have older software. Yeah. Okay. So they pushed this file through, and it blue screened all these computers.
So until you could remove that file, which kept tripping the thing again, unless your device rebooted in a specific way.
So so once you hit blue screen, you have to safe mode and pull the file out.
Yes, and the thing that complicates that, because this is where it gets even better. So for you and me, well, no, actually, depending on what you're doing, it could be the same for us. There is a encryption technology on Windows called BitLocker. And that basically encrypts your hard drive so that so if somebody were to steal your computer and rip the hard drive out, they can't make any sense of it. Okay. Which obviously, go back to, say, Windows XP. If I pulled your hard drive out, I could see every single thing on it. I just throw it into a cradle and it's done. Yeah. So, because of BitLocker, the only way, if you are in an enterprise, they centrally manage the keys and they generally don't give them out to people. And most people don't even know what it is. You turn it on.
Oh my God!
Right? So
the IT people in these individual branches must have been fucking pulling their hair out.
Depending on how they manage things, yes, because they, in most cases, you can't walk a user through this. You have to go to the machine.
Yeah.
Yeah. So imagine
one by one. Yeah.
Yeah. So imagine 8.5 million devices, many of which had to be individually touched. Now, don't get me wrong. Many places, they will have another machine that they could give somebody. There's mitigation factors. I'm not saying that literally kill the whole place.
That's a lot of systems.
Well, what you end up doing is introducing a lot of delay. And what they've estimated is so far its cost in U.S. Estimates are $24 billion. Which makes sense, right? Because they're bringing down airlines. They're bringing down banks. They're bringing down all different things. So
it is hilarious how easy it is to fuck with the I guess the drum of civilization.
Globally, about 5% of flights were canceled. Globally, not just in the U.S., globally. Yeah. Which is, about 5,000 flights. So,
which is not as bad as it could have been.
Well, okay, it doesn't sound bad, but that delays everything. Everything ripple effects when it comes to that stuff.
Oh, of course, yeah.
And in some cases,
do you remember when they got the ship stuck in the
canal,
the Suez Canal, and they're saying it's costing the world like this much per day?
Right.
Yeah. Everything's great. Everything's great while it's running. Second, the plane goes off the rails. There
were hospitals that were canceling non-urgent surgeries. This all has costs. This all has impact.
Yeah, and then you have to reschedule everybody and everything.
If you can get anything, and then you have to imagine that everything else gets pushed back because of this.
Yeah.
So the only reason I even knew about it initially is I went to Starbucks that morning, and usually in the Starbucks app they have a order ahead thing, which I typically do because why not? And it said, "Oh, not available," which sometimes just happens. Sometimes it just isn't available because they're usually understaffed, and so it's easier for them to just do people who walk in because it discourages people. So, and I have no problem walking in either. I'm just so used to doing it that way because then there's not a line. So I happened to see that, and I went into the place, and they know me there because I go there a lot. And they were like, "Oh yeah," and I didn't understand what they were telling me at first because I didn't have any idea of the scope of this.
You didn't realize it was a big thing, yeah?
No. They just, because I went in there, we're just giving out brewed coffee. Is that okay? I'm like, yeah, I don't care. Sure, I don't need a fancy coffee. Coffee's fine. Because
wait, hold on. There's a key phrase there. They're giving away brewed coffee.
Well, the thing, what they, I thought she said.
Were they selling or were they giving?
No, that's what confused me was I thought what she said was, we can only charge for. I thought she said we can only charge. Is brewed coffee okay? I heard it as we can only charge for brewed coffee, so I thought they were having a system problem. So, okay, fine. Yeah. And then they gave it to me, and I said, okay. And I had the phone app out, and she's like, no, we can't charge for anything. That's why we're giving you. They're not only giving it to me because they knew me.
Oh,
so I don't
okay.
know. Well, I think they were giving any of the regular customers that, or anybody who came in and was like irritated, which I wasn't. I actually started to leave. Because I was like, I can just come back and I'll get it later. Because I thought their system was just having a problem. So I was like, I'll come back later. It's fine.
Yeah, their system was having a problem.
And then I'm starting to walk out. I'm like, what am I, some kind of asshole millionaire? Yeah, brewed coffee's fine. Jesus. And so I'm like, sure.
And go on.
So they give me the thing, and then when she said you can't charge for anything, I'm like, really? Nothing? Huh? Wow. And she said, yeah, it's worldwide. And again, I thought she meant Starbucks.
Yeah,
so I was like, wow, really? I'm like, God, that sucks. And so I ran out to my car, and then I felt bad because I tipped through the app. So then I had to look through my car, and I found I actually keep a roll of quarters. And so I had to dig out $2 in quarters and go back. And I'm sorry I have to use quarters, but I'm not used to paying cash like this because I have like a couple of bigger bills in case of an emergency, but I'm not going to give them $20. I mean, you know what I mean?
You and I live in a very different world. I pay cash for everything. Go on.
No, I don't pay cash for everything. I don't care. So I gave them that, and then I was thinking about it. I'm like, wow, the whole system's down. That's got to be a hell of a problem. And then I actually kind of looked. I was like, oh, Starbucks outage, because I was just curious. Like, are they getting hit with a cyber attack? Because there was that hospital that just happened.
No.
I'm like, oh, no. The planet's getting hit with a cyber attack. That was caused by the company that's supposed to protect you from cyber attacks. Beautiful. And that, oh, man. I mean, somebody made a fake Magic the Gathering card that said, it's called CrowdStrike. And it had like a server on fire, and it said "instant fuck up." It was like this. It was a hysterical like card, and so I saw it because I'm in a Discord that's for Magic, like artists and stuff. And somebody posted, it's brilliant.
It's things like this that happen that you're like, this. It's stuff like this that's missing, I think, from a lot of like cyberpunk. It's this kind of like, hey, I've got these chips and stuff in my head, and I have all this software, right? And then it's like, well, the corporation put a weird file out by accident, and they blue screened your brain. Do you know what I mean? This is the whole like we are nowhere near the point where we should be taking technology into our bodies.
Well, what they've traditionally positioned it as is a terrorist attack with an EMP that knocks out the world.
Oh, there's
Except
that too, yeah.
That's not necessary because all it takes is one person.
Oh no! But
this person might have made a mistake. I mean, I don't think
listen.
Whatever.
There's a lot of roads to this. It doesn't always have to be an EMP. There's a lot of roads that can lead you to this kind of situation.
Yes,
it's just the level of recovery. In this respect, it took them just some time to reboot the computers. No,
the real issue is the consolidation problem. If this was where multiple companies had different things, if there was actual diversity like there is, in biology to make sure that bad things don't happen, then this wouldn't have, if CrowdStrike was not so dominant, and Microsoft was not so dominant, but everybody was using something that was more tailored to them, then this would have only affected certain groups of people. And if there were actual serious firewalls, like real ones in place that would stop this from happening, you wouldn't, but there's too much interconnectedness. And it's a byproduct of convenience and the fact that we don't have regulation to stop companies consuming other companies until you don't realize that one company owns all the other ones. So this is late-stage capitalism bullshit. That's what it is. Yeah. So, yeah.
This is. Look, I'm going back to my term here. This is the soft apocalypse.
Yeah. No, I was very fortunate because I'm on a Mac for my job, so
Dude,
I wasn't affected.
Fortunate. This shit didn't affect me at all.
Well, no, because you're not using CrowdStrike. Most home users.
I know, but what I'm saying is like I'm lucky in that there is nothing I was doing in my life currently that this software.
Well, it's a good thing you didn't fall and break your leg the day before and have to have an operation.
That's what I mean. Yeah. I got lucky, right? This didn't affect me at all. But I do know people that this affected quite a bit.
Oh yeah,
my brother-in-law is the pilot, so
right, yeah. So I mean, this is I think I titled my 5 a necessary wake-up call. because I do think this will get people to actually realize
what are people going to do? That's the thing. Is there actually going to be movement after this?
It is possible.
This.
Yeah. I mean, look, there can always be regulation introduced to stop the level of consolidation. It can be done.
And here's the thing: this is not even a complicated problem. I think that's the problem. That's what makes it really funny. Is that the specific tech of it, I wanted explained, but the actual situation breaks down to the simple idea of, hey, this one company was doing all of this,
correct,
and it fucked up, which affected everybody.
It could really be as simple as
use the service.
When you say, well, how do is it fixable? It could be as simple as that now.
Variety.
Well, and even if you don't do variety, let's say, because that's going to be tough to do quickly. I mean, just to be fair, that would be logistically next to impossible. This is not going to get solved in a month. What you could do in a month is you could then, the CrowdStrike could say, we are now going to have a virtual machine at every company that is servicing with us that we deploy the patch to for 48 hours before it goes anywhere else. And let's see if anything happens.
I'm surprised they don't.
This is what I'm saying.
Again, it's so simple.
There's any number of
just
simple
check your homework,
things
guys.
Somebody before patches is released, it passes through 3 levels of quality control. Anything.
I guess you couldn't do that, could you? Because it's all interconnected. I was going to say, if you put the patch up, but you put it regionally in waves. So
you absolutely can do that. No, you can do that.
Wave patch it.
Yes, that's how they do phone updates.
We're patching Canada right now. We'll see if that affects.
That is simplistic to do.
That's not, and that's the thing. Every step of this seems pretty simple.
It is, unless you are so arrogant in your approach to things that you think we're not going to make a mistake. And that's what happens when a company gets this big. And look, I'm not saying that.
Well, I don't know if it's arrogance or just I don't give a shit.
No. I think one leads to the other, which is no, serious, because CrowdStrike's been around for a while, right? They have a good product up to now, and so you go for long enough where you are seen as the reliable choice, and you're doing things correctly, and you are probably saving people from terrible and very damaging cyber attacks.
So you're putting a more benign face on it. They didn't necessarily do this nefariously. They just do a good product, so they thought, hey, we don't get things wrong.
I don't even know that you say benign, because it could start off benign and become malevolent, because maybe it starts off with where you go, wow, we really haven't screwed anything up for a while. I think we've got this down. And then maybe somebody later says, we might want to consider putting this in there, but it's going to cost, $20,000 a year. And they're like, why? We haven't made a mistake yet. This is unnecessary.
We're making our shareholders a lot of money.
That, by the way, anybody who works in a big outfit will very quickly recognize is the calculus that is more often made now is risk. What's the word for it? Risk aversion. The risk tolerance is a better word for it. Risk tolerance is really, really high until the cost gets to a certain point within an organization. And then they start asking, well, what's the likelihood it could happen? Now, if you had asked a week ago or 2 weeks ago, what's the likelihood that somebody it could be more than one person.
They would have said low.
Yeah, that CrowdStrike will push through an update that will blue screen something like 8.5 million machines and cause flight delays. If you'd listed this, they would have said, well, sure, it's possible. It's also possible a meteorite the size of a fist will hit you in the crotch next week. But it's not necessarily very likely. And so this is what will now have everybody going crazy. This is the stupidity of modern risk assessment. And they're going to go, whoa. It's like, okay, if you'd just done a couple things before now, you wouldn't be panicking over it today. There wouldn't be the impact. But instead we don't want to spend on a small chance. Well, that small chance can hit you really hard, and it did.
Not to be paranoid. There is always the possibility that someone genuinely attacked them.
Yeah, well, but still.
I mean, I'm just saying, and in that situation, it's still bad, but at least it was not the company fucking up so much as the company getting fucked up.
I don't know that I even agree with that. If somebody gets into your network and they can do this, then you have a problem.
That it's worse?
Not necessarily. Look, and this is being fair about it. You can't possibly shield this is like the whole idea of how many locks you have on your house.
Yeah.
If somebody wants in, they're getting in. You just make it as hard as possible and hope they go somewhere else.
You try to discourage them, yeah.
There's two sides to this equation. The side of the intrusion, if there was one, maybe they did everything right and somebody got in. It does happen. Social engineering is the most effective form of getting into a company because...
and you know what? Tonight, I introduced my my father-in-law to the movie Sneakers.
Oh, what a great movie.
I can't believe he is a programmer. He is an old school engineer programmer.
The person I mentioned who just started supporting us on Patreon, Ant Pruitt,
yeah.
He'd never seen it, and he was in IT for years, and he'd never seen it.
God,
and he was like, "Oh, this is really good." Yeah, I know. It's one of those things that we think, "Oh, everybody has to have seen this," but no.
Yeah. So sorry, you're go on. Yeah.
But you're making the exact point of the whole thing where she goes on the date with the guy to get the like all that stuff.
Yeah.
It's not that there's modern versions of that. So even if somebody gets in, the idea is that you're supposed to be able to mitigate the damage once they're in. So knowing that you supply the fundamental security structure for these companies that are in critical areas, you have a responsibility to be able to stop or limit the damage as much as possible. And if they had seen that if they had a test environment, something where they ran that file check before deployment or some series of things that, as you said, delayed the deployment of it until each of those deployment zones had run a quality check. And I know somebody's going to say, well, that's exorbitantly expensive. Fuck you. I don't care. You are the number 1, 2, or 3 cybersecurity company that supplies much stuff. It can't be more than $24 billion.
It doesn't have to be, especially if you roll it out, just roll it out in one zone early. That's it. Just have a test zone that you roll it out.
But
pick a zone that is the least amount of damage. Just roll it out there. And then and once you've got it clear, then you can roll it everywhere else at once.
Even if it's $1 billion a year, it's not going to be more expensive than this type of thing.
See, but hold on. But this is the problem now, right? That statement is that the board of whatever, the CEO, the CFO, they all sat down and they were like, you know what? What's the likelihood of this happening? Like you said.
Yes.
And they said the likelihood is low. And hey, we pocket that money. So why not? This is and this is the whole, it's like meteor proofing your house.
Oh, and those executives will skate. Those people, even if they're let go, they're going to have retirement packages. This is what I'm talking about. Is this all demonstrates the fundamental issues that are going on, all of it. This is a multi-pronged demonstration of how vulnerable our society is. This was, all things taken into consideration, minor.
Yep.
Minor compared to what could have happened.
It's good, though, because it shows people who are not necessarily tech savvy that the tech can still get them when things go wrong.
Yes.
Because just because you don't think you're utilizing it, you are utilizing aspects of the world that depend on it.
Yes, absolutely.
And
your
groceries, your hospital, your police, all the everyday things that keep you going and alive and protect you.
Microsoft has gotten close to doing this to computers a bunch of times with their updates. So this is not really new. But the thing is, again, that was only affecting small batches of users that were using Microsoft. This affected and no one is unaware of this, unless you're really out in the woods in a shack. Then you're not, because I don't think it brought down cellular service.
Jeez, you know what? It didn't affect me at all.
But you knew about it.
And I was still painfully aware of it.
That's exactly my point. Is a lot of this stuff that's happened before has been limited visibility, or has not seemed, or people haven't thought through the severity of it. Just the idea that a ransomware can shut down a hospital, people should be terrified of that, and they're really not, because it isn't their hospital. The people whose hospital it is, they're aware. But it wasn't that every hospital in every country got shut down for a week.
There's always the fact that you could always go to a different hospital, worst case.
Right. Whereas this, it was everywhere, and it was big to small. Literally, Starbucks not being able to take payments is the most minor inconvenience possible.
Oh, no. And honestly, I find that kind of funny.
It is.
How long has it been since at this point, since it happened?
Well, it would have been, it was Thursday, let's say.
As of recording.
Thursday midnight. I mean, well, it was mitigated within 20. It was resolved within 24 hours. They had a fix within 10. I want to say.
Okay, so they fixed it. They fixed it within 24 hours.
Yeah, they probably had.
But there's still the fallout though of all the things that got pushed back.
Oh, of course. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh,
So
absolutely.
that part can't be fixed.
Well, eventually you catch up
You'll
through.
catch up. Yeah.
Yeah. There's ways to
you have
mitigate
to
it over
mitigate
time.
that buildup. Okay.
Yeah, because like the hospital things that got delayed. Well, eventually they'll get scheduled, and
Okay,
they'll just
yeah.
push other ones out until it kind of resumes its normal flow. There's
So, but
those.
but
It's like ripples in a
generally
pond.
the tech was fixed within 24 hours.
Yeah, and they may have had a fix identified very, very early, but a lot of people, I'm
you
just
still
talking
have
like
to
1
sit down
a.m. in some
and-
places. So people aren't at their
Yeah.
computers at 1 a.m. most of the time. Servers, all that stuff. Yeah, those people were up in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
So, and by the way, exceptionally fortunate that the fix was as easy as it was. Remove one file.
It's
At least
funny
in the case
too
of
because
desktop machines.
we always work. They always do these apocalypse movies where it's like, oh, all the electricity went away, and it's like, no, you know what? If tomorrow, right, the internet went away,
Yeah.
could you imagine the chaos?
Oh,
that would
fucked.
ensue?
Fucked.
Like not your electricity, right? Not your.
Wait, you know what? Don't say
just-
that. Don't say
Yeah.
that. We don't know.
because they control the servers.
Right, because now there's all these
No, but
there's
so-
all
oh,
these,
so-
these electrical meters on the house that are all web enabled. I don't know what
yeah.
happens if they're offline
So
for a while.
If the web went away at this point,
Yeah,
so
because-
we are truly an internet dependent culture at this point.
And the reason I say that is I know there's anti-tampering stuff in these.
Yeah.
So if there's an outage, I don't know after a certain amount of time if it assumes that's an attempt to sabotage it.
Your computer, right? If is a simple everyday thing that'll affect people. If you use iTunes, right? If your iTunes gets pulled offline and you don't connect to the internet for a while, I know that after a certain period of time, iTunes wants to check in, or it starts shutting down your music.
Yeah, Adobe's the
had
same
this
way.
happen
30
to me.
days. 30 days of Adobe.
Yeah.
If you don't have a
I
payment in 30
didn't know
days,
if
it stops working.
I don't know if it's 30 days, but I know that eventually I got a pop-up that
Well,
was
yeah,
like,
yeah.
hey, you need to check in with the iTunes store now.
Right. But
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying is when you say,
and
well,
that's
your
something
power won't
basic.
stop. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I know, but no, that it's good that you eliminate that.
I
to me.
don't know.
It is this idea that if the internet went away tomorrow, the amount of shit that it would take. You wouldn't even need to knock out other things. The knocking out of the internet would take everything else with it. It'd be its own kind of weird apocalyptic situation.
Yeah.
Now granted, I don't know how you would just knock out the internet.
Oh no, you could do it. Okay.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm saying
So-
I don't know how you
Well,
would just knock
you
out
don't
the
you don't
internet.
actually have to really knock out the internet the way I think you're thinking of it, where you just knock it out. What you do is you flood the system with so much garbage it can't operate. There's ways that you could inject things in there. You could. There's lots of different ways. You could. Geez, I mean, if somebody really wanted to and was coordinated enough, of course, that's the problem. Is you have to be coordinated and be able to execute it in secrecy, which is tricky.
Yeah,
But-
and then you have to be ready for the aftermath.
Well, many of the infrastructure level network hardware is from a small group of vendors. All you have to do is target the biggest ones, and the smaller ones won't be able to compensate. So you don't have to knock it out.
The traffic
You just
will
overwhelm
shift,
it.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. Is
so it's pretty tenuous then, really, when you think about it.
well, it becomes the smaller the group of controlling points are. What that does is it reduces points of failure from
Over
many to few.
specialize and you
Breeds
breed
in
the
weakness. Exactly.
Yes, there you go.
That's the real problem. It's not that any of these things are easier. You have to attack less things.
Yeah.
And the smaller the look, it's like, if you have to shoot 1,000 missiles at 1,000 targets or 10 at 10, which one would you want to take a shot at? You're going to want to shoot at the 10 because more chance of hitting more of it. That's the same thing. So why did this affect so much stuff? Because it hit one thing. CrowdStrike did the one thing wrong. One company did this. One. That is staggeringly bad.
Imagine, right? If you had two things you wanted to take out. If you took out CrowdStrike. CrowdStrike? Is it CrowdStrike, right?
Well, yeah, CrowdStrike is the company. So you somehow
you took
poisoned
them out-
CrowdStrike's product.
Actually, so here's a question to you: if you were trying to do maximum damage, what is your second target?
After CrowdStrike?
Yeah.
That's an interesting question. So
Like if you're really going for the knockout blow,
Probably
causes much-
AWS. AWS or maybe Cisco networking hardware. Again, it's you know what? Probably AWS. AWS has AWS and Azure. Okay, hold on. Let me see. Let me look up AWS because a lot of stuff goes through AWS. Let's see. Amazon Web Services. How much do they control? Does it give you? Is there a percentage? They have 31% of the market share for cloud infrastructure. The next two are Azure and Google Cloud, and Azure has 25%. Azure was already having an outage.
Hold on. So Azure, AWS, what's the other one?
Google Cloud, which is only
Google
11%.
Cloud. So those are right there. Those you said Azure is another 30%?
Azure is 25, AWS is 31. So right there, you're at 60, just short of 60%.
That's half
Over
the
half.
traffic right there. Yeah.
That's over half. That's what I'm saying.
I mean, and that's only 2 other targets,
Yeah.
3 at most.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See what I'm saying? It becomes easier. Whereas when this all started, could I have named just 3 companies that had the most of it? Probably not. See, this is what I'm saying is this is a beneficial moment. Whether we learn anything from it or not, that's a secondary question. But this is kind of like COVID in a lot of ways. Because COVID, if it had a 90% fatality rate, we'd have an awfully empty planet. But it didn't.
Yes.
So this should have been we need to learn from this moment. And we bombed
I always
it.
say to people that COVID was basically was plague training wheels.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
It was here's
the
a
plague cycle.
And it was really bad. And next time it's going to be way, way, way worse.
Yeah, it was the training plague.
So prepare.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, you're seeing
and honestly, I think we did pretty crappy.
Oh, we did. No, we definitely did. And that's what I'm saying is the only reason this might be different is because this is going to cost a lot of people a lot of money, and it's going to impact people directly. So there may actually be something from this. Will it be enough?
Yeah, when your groceries stop having food, and
Well,
you can't get your power grid to turn back on.
Or more to the point, in this case, to use this specific example, even the most high-powered senator can't make their hospital work.
Yeah.
I don't care who you are. If you were supposed to have surgery to have that polyp removed from your ass that makes you can't sit, and they say we're going to have to delay a month, you're going to say why, and you could actually do something about it. So, something worse.
It'll be fascinating to see if they do. If it is in fact the wake-up call that people need. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's corporate money, and they always seem to take the path of most profit for themselves.
They do, but there are incidents that will puncture that.
Hopefully.
So again, I no matter what, I don't expect any of the executives to go to jail.
I find so amusing about you sometimes is that you are so hopeless sometimes, and then you have these little rays of hope where you're like, like in this situation where you're like, no, sometimes things can puncture that, and you're like, that's hope.
Oh well, yeah, no,
it's interesting to me when you have hope.
I am a pragmatic nihilist in many ways. Where
I know, but the thing is, like, I'm not a pragmatic.
Well, because what
nihilist,
I'm saying is,
but I look at these things and I go, no, dude, they're gonna follow the path of what gives them the most amount of money.
That chocolate center of hope is ensconced in a shell of the fact that the greed of the truly responsible will survive. So if they actually have legislation that says you cannot do this anymore, as I said, those executives, they're not going to jail. They're going to go to Aruba. And so they'll be like, do whatever you want. We're retiring now. So the reason it can happen is because they won't have to go to jail. The company will have to change. It will impact all the people below. Big if. But I'm saying that's the reason I can have any hope at all is because it's underneath the nihilism of, they're going to be fine. Those executives
But if you're
will be
a
fine.
pragmatic nihilist and you have hope in the situation, and I don't, where does that put me on the sliding scale?
Chaotic nihilism, I guess.
Because are we going into Dungeons and Dragon models now? You're a chaotic neutral.
I've always liked the chaotic, the chaotic neutral, chaotic lawful, chaotic evil. Like I've always liked those descriptors.
Yeah, because sometimes it is. Yeah.
Well, look,
I was trying to describe characters to my son the other day, and I used that chart, and he was like, "What is this chart?" And I was like, "Oh, well, you have lawful good, you have neutral good, you have chaotic good, all that stuff."
Yeah.
And like sometimes chaotic good can be kind of just as much trouble as chaos.
Oh, I I will never.
Chaotic
I would
evil.
never choose anything but chaotic. Whatever. It's always going to be that, and that's because there's just too much randomness. Otherwise, you have to assume a more divine structure, which I do not. So without the divine infrastructure, I have to go chaotic because that's what it is.
Well, listen,
So-
we kind of have divine infrastructure in the sense that it was a divine mandate from the gods that fucked all these computers.
The cyber gods.
Yeah, exactly. You know?
Did you know that the original title for the Lawnmower Man film was Cyber God, and they changed it to the Lawnmower Man? Were you aware of that?
It makes sense. I mean, Lawnmower Man is I can see how that's more evocative. Whereas they are worried that Cyber God would be like, Cyber what?
Yeah, I guess. I think it's a much better title, but
I honestly, I disagree with you. I think Lawnmower Man is better. I think
if you're a Stephen King fan and you were going in expecting anything related to that story.
Yes, that is very true. But that's a whole other situation. Where,
It is,
you
but
know,
I mean, you know.
can they what I'm saying is, in general, I like the title Lawnmower Man more because there's a everyday sort of assumption that is brought on, right? Whereas if you walk into the room going Cyber God, the movie is more Cyber God, the short story is more Lawnmower Man. How about that?
I guess you're correct in that we disagree.
Yes, we do.
But
We do in this respect.
ultimately, they must have thought the same as you. That's what they went with.
Yeah, I like the title.
Hey,
do.
that's fine. Hey, it's
And,
okay.
and you know what? I still find that movie interesting.
I was just about to say, I like the movie, and a lot
I
of people
still
don't.
like the
So,
movie. Yeah, I still like it. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, the sequel,
ooh, no. Fun, because it's trash, but not good.
interesting, but yeah. Mm.
Yeah. Matthew Frewer, so, yeah, but no.
Yeah, I know. But you know what? You know what? It would have been.
Matthew Frewer, yes. Otherwise, no.
I want to. If you want to make something like that, make it like Max Headroom. Make it a funny cyber god.
I
and that's
think
what they kind of tried with Max
Yeah,
Headroom,
they tried.
you know,
but,
where he
no,
was
they tried.
like-
They tried with Lawnmower Man too. They tried to do funny bits of that, and it didn't work because they didn't know what they were doing.
Yeah, I should go back and watch Max Headroom actually sometime soon.
Oh,
'cause
you
that,
should. I watch that once a year.
That show gets so much
It's excellent.
right.
Oh boy, does it! Yeah, I mean, it gets almost everything right except the fact that nobody uses a mouse.
Well, they didn't know yet.
Well, no, I know,
'Cause
but
it was
for all the
You know
other
what?
things
Actually,
they put it
I'll tell you
correctly,
this.
they don't get that.
I love the fact they have these visions of the future in these shows, but the problem is they don't actually know what the future is going to look like, right?
No.
So because the future itself is always far more domestic and mundane, right?
True.
So, for example, you know, your cell phone, your iPhone is more incredible than Kirk's little flip
Tricorder?
communicator.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Right. But the tricorder, the flip communicator, they're so much cooler, and that's the vision. The vision of the future is so much cooler than kind of this mundane reality, right?
Oh, yeah,
Where
absolutely.
everyone's glued to this device, and they've and it's like this little square thing, and and there's a. But that's what the future always ends up looking like. It's like they strip out all the design and the cool, and then that's what you end up with. But I always find that funny when they have these shows that are trying to do the future and these things that they pull on. It's like, I remember I said to you, I think a week or two ago, like, what is our vision of the future? For this time period.
Oh,
that
yeah,
we didn't
yeah.
know.
Yes.
I think that we are leaning towards a computerless future, in the sense that there will be the interface is getting smaller, and there's a lot more audio based around it. And I wonder if in the future you're going to have less screens and more just audio interfaces.
Yeah, that certainly seems to be the idea. Yeah.
I don't like
No.
it.
I
don't enjoy it. It's not my preferred.
Well, okay. Let's keep in mind it's not going to just be that for everybody. It's going to be.
Oh no, but it's not. Yeah.
So if you don't want that, you will still be able to do it without it. But I think for a lot of people, that is what they want. And I don't have any issue with that. I think
no.
there's a
Everyone can interface the way they want.
Yeah, because let's not assume that everybody has the dexterity or the physical limbs to be able to interact
Yeah.
with a computer the way we do. So that's fine. I just hope they that
No,
they don't just make that
have
the default.
I have a classic sense. For me, computers are an evolution of the typewriter. Right. So for me, people are like, oh, I should get rid of the keyboard. And I'm like, the keyboard is the thing, guys. It's like, that's the thing that made it for me. Like, my bridge from typewriter to computer is the keyboard.
Sure.
So this idea of losing it is like a big deal for me. But there's plenty of people out there that are like, I don't need a keyboard.
And like I said, I don't think you'll lose it. I think it's just going to be the computers will have the ability to operate without them.
Well, they do.
The same way that
an
they
iPad
do now.
doesn't. An iPad doesn't need a keyboard.
I would guess at some point every device will be able to operate without a peripheral attached.
I'd ask you. Here's a question for you, right?
I mean, I'm not going to use it that way. But.
So how many years do you think it'll be before there is no MacBook anymore? There is only an iPad, a high-powered iPad.
That's a tricky question, but I would say if because Apple maintains they're never going to do that. So let's take them at their.
Yeah, they're never going to do that.
No, I agree, but realistically, they could do it today very easily. So I would say, at least the most would be within 10 years, but probably within 5.
Yeah, I mean, just computers. The technology just in our lifespan is going to be so different by the day we die.
Oh yeah, of course.
It's just so wild. Actually, what? This is a funny thing. So my in-laws are staying with me right now, and they're older, and they're older British. So it's different from my mother, who's older Cuban, because like her background with my mother, she grew up in a backwoods farm, no power, no plumbing, right? So asking her about technology is very funny because it's like she had no technology growing up, right? But my wife's parents are more, they grew up in the suburbs of England, right?
Right.
So I was talking about how, explaining to my kids the fact that free long distance, it isn't free, but basically cheap long distance, how that changed things radically for me. That when I first in the early 2000s, I got a cell phone, and that I could call anywhere in the country, and I didn't have to pay any long distance for it. That was like a weird revelation, and I've said this before on the show, right? That was a really interesting thing for me. That I was like, oh my god, I was like, this is, and my kids roll their eyes at me because they're like, that's so dumb, right? And it's like, yeah, but you don't understand. When I was a kid, if I wanted to call my grandparents in Florida, those phone calls cost me, it was 10 cents a minute or something like that, or maybe it's even worse. And my in-laws were saying that when they used to call back to England, that it was I think it was $1 a minute or something like that, ridiculous, right? Early on. And to suddenly have the capability to call long distances, in their case, they started calling long distances using the computer, right? That the access of communication really did change quite a bit. But I asked them if there was what mundane everyday technology really changed their everyday lives. And my mother-in-law said, oh, that's easy. She's like, the ballpoint pen. And I was like, what? And she was like, yeah. She's like, when I was a kid, she's like, we were still using,
the quills where you had to dip in the ink?
Well, like a pen that you dip in the ink.
Yeah.
So when she was a kid, she was doing
a nib, like a
pen,
ink nib.
pen and ink, right? And then she was like, all of a sudden, there was ballpoint pens. She's like, and we didn't have to dip them anymore. She's like, and it was so strange. And I was thinking about that, and I was like, yeah, you know what? It's so funny. That I can't even conceive of that. A ballpoint pen is the cheap everyday thing. You find those fucking anywhere. You find those on the side of the street, and they still write. Right? So this idea that they didn't exist, it's we're all caught up with the computers going down. But if tomorrow all the ballpoint pens disappeared, it's just stuff like that. It's the fascinating way that technology comes on and layers on itself and layers upon layers and layers, like heritage code, where it's all built on itself. It needs all these things to get to where it's going, and we are the passengers on this crazy ship. And along the way, it's all these little mundane inventions and the way they get rolled out and the way they change our lives, and then we become dependent on them because it becomes so commonplace. So it's from my mother-in-law, it's a ballpoint pen was a revelation. Whereas us, we're a ballpoint pen is just an everyday part. It's like the paint on the wall. It's so everyday. It's just there. and free long distance. When that happened, I was like, holy shit, really? And it's like, yeah, there's all these little things. I asked my wife the other day, here's a good one for you. What are the 2 modern features of a car that if you suddenly lost, like, that would really bug you?
Power steering and anti-lock brakes.
Okay, so you're talking
Well,
about...
sorry. Actually, no. I would have to say power steering and air conditioning.
Yeah, see, I'm talking about the little itty-bitty things that are more recent, like anti-lock brakes, power steering. My rear view camera. You're talking about
like, okay, all right, yeah. If you want to go with minor
That's what
things,
I mean, like
yeah, rear view camera and
the little thing that tells me how many miles I have left in my tank. If you took those 2 things away from me, it would annoy me.
You know what? That I don't need that because I'm so used to doing the math on that. That's one of the few things I can do math on because that was drilled into me by my dad when I was very young. Is understand your car's mileage per gallon, how many gallons are in your car, and how far you can go safely.
Yeah, I don't have that.
Oh, that is one of the few areas of mathematics I am very good at. I have a very good sense of honestly, because I suck at math.
No. That's fantastic. I also suck at math, which is why that feature is kind of cool for me. That and the rear view camera. I wouldn't be able to drive a minivan like a fucking jet fighter pilot.
Actually, you know what? Here's another one. Actually, in terms of very recent, the air pressure and the tire thing.
Oh, yeah. Man, I had such a fun thing the other day. I think I told you about this, where my tire blew, and I got to the house. I didn't realize it had blown. I got to the house, and my daughter was like, what's that hissing sound? And we realized that my tire was deflating. And my wife was like, what are you going to do? And I was like, you know what? I was due for a service anyway, so I figured I'd check to see if they had one. And they had one available, and I was like, well, can I get there before it deflates? And I was watching the tire deflate on the info window that keeps track of like the amount of air you have, and watching my tire deflate in real time as I was driving to the place.
See, that's where I'd want some kind of emergency feature, Demolition Man style, where it reinflates an inner tube just enough to get you to where you need to go. It's not made for more than 50 miles, but it happens.
I used to have run flats. And I actually really like run flats because if you get a flat tire, you can go for a while.
Right.
And my wife hated them because they don't last as long as normal tires.
No, but that's the offset.
But the offset is that, like, I've had a flat tire on a run flat and ran on the run flat for like 3-4 days. Just kept going. And it just made the ride a little rougher. Yeah. But beyond that, that structure kept the whole thing going.
Sure.
You know, I love run flats. Run flats are cool. That's a neat technology that they didn't have when I was younger.
That's a good point. Yeah.
But it's like, there's all these little technologies, like, and so for anybody who thinks, oh, I'm a Luddite, I don't use technology. I was like, yeah, you do. Like, I don't think any of us are Luddites anymore. I think that you're just afraid of the newest stuff. But none of us are Luddites.
Yeah, there's a very
balls deep in technology.
A very small percentage of people, and that is the people living in the shack in the woods. Those are the only.
No,
people
you know
who
what?
really
Those Amazon tribes that they find now randomly that are still in the forests, yeah, they're fully disconnected. Except, you know what? They probably use bow and arrows, which was one of our first pieces of technology.
That is technology.
And that's what it is. It's technology that humans developed.
That's true.
You know, but it's like your pen, you know, your shoes. Your shoes, the amount of technology that are packed into your simple fucking Keds is amazing. The rubbers, the stitching, the types of fabrics, right? Like, we're awash in it. And I can only imagine 100 years from now how much more will be just... And honestly, the technology in the body is a natural evolution if you look at it in that, because it's all around us. It's all important. At some point, it will become part of us, and then it'll be interesting to see where we go. This is why the whole like tech lord vision of the future is not that outlandish. That we would try to do that at some point.
No, absolutely not.
I think the next big breakthrough technologically is when you can interface the organic with the non-organic. I think that's the next big that'll change everything. I just don't know when that's going to happen, because I know that Musk likes to go on about his whole Neuralink chip, but I've read about that thing. I'm not impressed.
No. Not in its current state, that's for sure.
I'm surprised no one's head's blown up yet. But that would be, to me, that's the next step in the future. Is the body technology link.
Oh yeah.
You know,
They'll get there. They're working on it.
Yeah, and then then things will get weird, because when you can start, it'll be interesting to see when you can create, like a Matrix thing, you can create a virtual environment that you go into. And what will be interesting about it is that, I think this, with a video game, you have to populate the environment, right? So we're playing
Sure.
Ascent right now, and it's a beautiful environment,
Yeah.
right? But when you read a book, right, since the book being a technology unto its own, when you have a book, the reader populates the environment. You give them certain keywords to guide them, but the reader is populating the environment. I think in the future, when they have these kinds of technologies where they create these virtual environments, I think that when your own mind will populate these virtual environments, and that they'll basically figure out how to get the user to essentially lie to themselves about the level of detail. It's that great thing from Inception where they talk about the nature of a dream. When you're in a dream, it doesn't seem that weird. It's afterwards that you notice all the weird things that stood out.
Sure,
that weren't quite right. But when you're in a dream, it seems perfectly fucking logical, right? Everything seems fine. And I think it's going to be something like that, where when they create those interfaces in those environments, we will populate them with our own minds. And what'll be fascinating is how different these environments will look to individuals, where it's like, well, it's a red couch. What kind of red couch is it? Because saying red couch conjures an image, but everybody's image is different. We all have our own red couch.
You didn't specify how many cushions. Some people will be 2.
What kind of quilting is it? What is it made of?
One.
How high is it? Does it have
Leather,
an underpart or no
whatever.
underpart? Yeah, we could go on for minutes, 20 minutes, just about the nature of what the red couch looks like, right? So it'll be so fascinating when we make that jump. And once you can interface technology and the non-organic and the organic, then at some point or another we will get control over the organic and start changing the way that organic works. That's when things will get really weird. And I think we've actually covered this in a previous show, didn't we?
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
My name is Bob and I'm a god. The one where we turn into energy.
Yeah, it would become energy nanobite interface. Yeah,
whatever.
Puddles.
Like blobs.
Yeah. It's funny. Recently, I'm almost done with that how technology shapes this course, and I thought it was really funny. I learned all about blockchain, right? I had a whole 25 minutes about blockchain, which is more than I ever thought that I needed.
Lucky you.
I know, right? I was stuck in traffic for 2 hours, and I was listening to a lecture on blockchain.
The irony.
It's funny. But what was interesting to me is that the woman doing the course, she was so hopeful for the technology, but so naive as to whether or not how it'll get sort of actualized. You know what I mean? And I think this is what very often happens. It happens with me. It happens with you. This is that you get this new technology that has the ability to do all these things, right? And there are people who get so caught up with how this the things it could do, that they forget the dumb shit that people are actually going to do. So like with blockchain, they were going, oh, you decentralized governments and decentralized funding, and then we could create our own networks of payment, and and it's like all this stuff, and you're like, yeah, you could theoretically change society as we know it with blockchain. You could, but you're not going to, because it's too fucking difficult, and there's too many people who just don't want to bother with it.
Well,
maybe down the road it'll become a
that's
thing.
The problem is that the technology as a technology is amazing.
Yes.
The application of it is a mess.
And that's the thing. And this goes back to, what a lot of people say, why was Steve Jobs really great? Well, Steve Jobs, he knew the right people to have near him, knew how to apply elements and put those elements together to make things desirable. Because for the longest time, the iPhone was not exactly the most powerful phone. Wasn't the Google phone Are the Android better when you really sat down and looked at the nuts and bolts of it and the
Well,
features and things like that?
their features were not, they weren't as unified as they are now. So depending on what you wanted to do, that could be true. Just depends on how you looked at it.
But it's like, yeah, if you know how to apply things a certain way, you can really put your foot down on the gas for certain technologies. The problem is that those technologies, you have to, talking about bridging the gap between the biology and the non-biological, you got to know how people think. And just because you know the technology doesn't mean you're going to understand how people think and how people are going to apply it. And this goes back to the whole thing that you're saying about, I hope that this whole situation with CrowdStrike is going to cause people to turn around and say, okay, you know what, we need to change the rules about this, and we need to have more, and hopefully someone in CrowdStrike will do that. But now you're dealing with human personalities and psychologies, and you're sitting there going, okay, but what are you really going to do? Are you gonna look at this and go, okay, what's the likelihood of this ever happening again? And they're gonna have their little meeting, and someone's gonna go, oh, it's not high. This was a 1 in a million thing, and then go, okay, so let's put all that money back in our pockets because we'd rather have it there than here. And they'll lie to themselves until it happens again. That's a possibility. Now, is there a possibility that they'll do the right thing and they'll make a system like this? That's a hope. That is also a possibility.
It is a possibility.
But listening to this woman lecture about blockchain, I was like, Jesus, your vision of the future is fantastic. I love this idea that blockchain is going to decentralize things and make it so that you can almost have this sort of one world culture where everybody's, everyone's working together, right? But we don't do that. We want to fight with people a city away. The Yankees fans and Red Sox fans want to kill each other over a baseball team. Right? I mean, that's the thing. Though we are one species, we love to fight over all the minute differences. And it's, you know what? I just started showing my kids Strange New Worlds. Because they've only seen the Star Trek movies. And I want to get them into Star Trek. And I think that Strange New Worlds, for me, is one of the best places to start with non-Trekkies. Right? That's my opinion. We'll graduate from there. I'll see where. I don't know if I'm going to take them back to Golden Age Star Trek because I
would go back as far as Next Gen. That's it.
No. I watched a few episodes of like classics of Star Trek the other day with like Kirk and Spock and everything, and I forgot how rapey Kirk is.
Oh well, there is that,
Man,
and also
Kirk
there are long stretches of boredom that kids
Kirk
will not make it through.
Kirk is so rapey. Like,
all
the time.
He's a sexual assault machine.
Oh my God, Denny Crane, like all over the place. And at one point, he knows he's dealing with a robot, right? And he knows it's a robot, and he just grabs her, and he pretty much starts trying to get down and dirty with her because he knows it's a robot. And I know that psychologically he's just trying to mess with the circuitry of the robot, but it's like, dude, the second you knew it was a robot, you were like, game on. Anyway, so I showed my kids Strange New Worlds. And the first episode of Strange New Worlds is when they basically Pike is forced to come back to
Fascism Planet or whatever.
Yeah, he's forced to come back to the Enterprise early because number one is missing, and she was dealing with a planet that had a warp core signature, and essentially what it is that these people saw the weird warp event that happened in the sky in Discovery, and they figured off of that how to make a basic warp technology. But they didn't build it to create for exploration. They built it to make a bomb.
Warp bomb.
So a warp bomb, which, God, I can't even imagine how that works. And the whole episode is about how these people took this technology and rather than apply it to exploration, applied it to war, to wipe out their enemies, and how a technology like this is so powerful that they can very nearly wipe themselves out in the process. And you're like, yeah, that's the thing you forget, which is that we're so blind sometimes to the future of things. Is that we have the technology, I think, today to make this planet a utopia for everybody. I think the technologies exist. I think they're out there. But we're not going to do it because it's uncomfortable, and some people won't get as much as they want, and some people want more power, and governments don't want to play ball, and resources don't want to be, and it's a very sort of communist vision of the future, or as I like to call it, Starfleet. And if you remember, Starfleet exists because the world basically nearly wiped itself out. That's one of those features you always forget, which is that Starfleet is the product of a World War III that nearly wipes the planet out.
Yeah, it didn't organically turn into a peaceful place.
No,
it was forced into it by strife.
By nearly destroying itself, right? And I do like that about Starfleet. I've said, I've come to realize that Starfleet is really un-American because it's so communist. But it's like a weird...
it's if anything, it's German. Because Germans look at the Nazis and Holocaust, they're like, don't forget this shit. That's why they don't want to tolerate it. The Americans are like, no, racism never happened. No. What are you talking about? Yeah, So I always think of Star Trek.
Warriors of goodness, right?
Right. Yeah. Right. No, they just wanted to have crosses that were very bright that everybody could see for miles away.
Oh my God.
Right.
That's so terrible. It was just a vision thing, right? We have these technologies, and I'm always fascinated by the dreamers who are like, well, we can do amazing things with this. I do this. I remember a while back there was some technology that would help people live longer, and it was some kind of weird air chambers they were using. And the reality is, like, the technology may be out there, but no one who needs it's going to get it. It's not going to be something that people, that anybody like me has access to, right?
Well, this comes back to one of the most ground level things, which is when, 2-3 years ago, they were talking about alleviating student debt, and a bunch of people got upset because they're like, wait a minute, I had to pay student debt. Why should anybody else not have to? And I'm like,
they should get just as fucked as I was, right?
That mindset, I'm like, that tells me everything I need to know about you. That just because you had to suffer, others have to too. That's a very interesting mindset, and I do not agree.
And that's the thing, is that when you look at these technologies, when you look at these visions of the future, you always have to stop and very soberly look at the human race and say, okay, we have this technology and we could do these things, but this is what we're really going to do with it, right? If tomorrow, it's the whole, oh man, do you remember that movie with Jim? Was it John Belushi? Was it John or Jim? Who's the one that died?
John died.
Jim. So the one with Jim Belushi, where he's the weird secret agent and he's trying to get, I think it's Scott Summers, to.
No,
Scott Summers.
Yeah,
and the whole idea is,
I know the movie you're talking about. I can't remember what it's called.
They need to bring this everyday guy to this place because the aliens are going to give them something, and they can either give them the weapon or the good package or something like that. And the guy that Belushi's bringing is like, well, what's in the good package? And he's like, I don't know, it's a good thing. And he's like, well, what's the weapon? He's like, it's a weapon that could destroy the planet. And the guy's like, why would anybody want that? And you're like, I don't know, because they use it on your enemies. And the guy's like, yeah, but if it destroys the planet, it destroys you too. And the guy's like, yeah, I know. And it's like, it's that kind of mindset where, like, it's the whole warp bomb. Like, that could conceivably kill all of us. Yeah, but I'll kill my enemies too. And you're like, okay. So, yeah. You gotta hope that you gotta hope that better people find themselves in the right offices of control at the right times, and that maybe somebody will do the right thing.
Yeah.
And that somebody will use these technologies wisely, and that the culture will evolve in a good way. Because right now, I think people get more excited about the evolution of televisions rather than medical science. Unless you're curing cancer, everyone's kind of like, yeah, whatever.
That's true.
My TV is really big and it's really flat. I don't understand why the TVs had to be so flat. I find myself more afraid to move my TV now than I ever have. There was this happy middle ground there where it was like flat enough that I could still throw it around a little bit.
Yep.
Whereas now it's like, oh, I coughed on it and it shattered.
Yep. Yeah. I'd like no TV to be fewer than 3 inches deep. Thank you.
Oh my God.
Get a good grip on it.
Yeah, whereas now they're like, don't turn it too much because you could wrench it. Just crack it right down the middle.
You could bend it.
But you know what? I think they do that on purpose. I think they make this shit as breakable as it is because then you got to go buy another one.
Well, they certainly don't care about the longevity. That's
You know,
for
it's
sure.
listen. You know, you were talking about phone cases the other day, right? Because you got the new one, and I was
Mhm.
saying how you had your phone out of your case, and I said it pretty slippery, isn't it? And you're like, Jesus, I almost
Ugh.
dropped it just moving it from cases. Yeah,
It's the worst.
Why are iPhones so slippery? Why, with all this design and technology, did you design a phone that is like a fucking missile in my hand? It's like a lubed up dildo, right?
True.
It just wants to fly away.
Yeah,
So
I agree.
I'm sure you have something to talk about. Sorry, you know what? I completely lost track of the fact that there was even anything else going on this show because I just got so embroiled with. Oh my God, have we been recording for this long?
90 minutes. Oh yeah, we spent a long time on the CrowdStrike thing.
Holy shit!
It became its own thing. That's okay.
Well, it did. It did become its own thing, didn't it?
It did. Well, speaking of apocalypses, I've talked with Len Kavazitsky on his YouTube channel about this. Len and I share a similar opinion of trauma films where there's a couple of really good ones, but there's a lot more that just do not work for either of us. They got to a point where they got a little too into themselves and they started trying to make jokes of their own jokes, and it just doesn't really work. So honestly, trauma to me, when I see a movie has that attached at all, I don't generally go towards it. And I've been that way for a while. But there's a movie, and you've probably heard of this movie, I don't know if you've ever seen it, that I've known about because it's been around for, well, it was 1987, so it's been around for a while. It's called Surf Nazis Must Die. Did you ever see this thing?
God.
Okay.
I've seen the poster for this.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I remember too. I remember the poster.
In rental places for
everywhere.
Years.
Yeah. But, you know, I never watched it when I was younger because I didn't really know about trauma when I was younger outside of Toxic Avenger, and I didn't put those two together. I didn't know what trauma was as a brand or, you know, as an outfit. So I remember seeing Toxic Avenger, but not really saying, oh, well, trauma makes movies like this. And not until I was older that I realized that they were what they did. So I never saw the movie when I was younger, and then I got, you know, older, and I was like, kind of over trauma stuff. And so I never watched it, but I saw something. I was reading something, and they were talking about these kind of weird apocalyptic films. This one came up, and they mentioned that Trauma didn't make it. They bought it and distributed it. And I went, oh, when that happens, it's a whole different thing, because that doesn't mean that they imprinted their meta whatever onto it. They just happened to think it was interesting or gonzo, and they bought it and put it out. So I went, okay, now I'm interested, because the premise is lunacy. It is simultaneously extremely promising and also basically Roadrunner cartoon silly.
I like the van with the shark teeth on it, though.
Oh, yeah, no. The visuals on this thing for how little the budget must be are actually pretty good. You see the budget limitations, but they're not really in the visual department. They're more in the fact that every gang portrayed is 3 people. There's no gang with more than 3 people, except for the surf Nazis themselves, who have 5. Everybody else, they're gangs. And so this movie is trying to fuse the Warriors with Mad Max, except surfing. So the idea is that I don't even know what year is this thing supposed to be set in. I think it's supposed to be 1987 essentially, because nothing really looks futuristic about it, and I don't know that they ever say a year. Do they ever give a year? No, and there's never a year. So based on everything you see and everything that's in the movie, there's nothing futuristic or different. It's simply that there has been a cataclysmic event, which comes in the form of an earthquake in LA. So I will play the clip of the radio, basically broadcast that start this movie off, where you're seeing file footage and stock footage of fires and, collapsed houses and everything else. And this is the radio report that basically sets the scene. Oh, let me make sure I have the volume not at maximum here. I don't want to blow your ears off. I just noticed the meter, so let me move that down.
Is there actually a Nazi with a metal claw hand?
Oh, don't worry. I will describe the Nazi gang for you in a minute. But this is your setup for what the world is.
This is Giles Moran with the BBS News. The situation here is catastrophic. The earthquake that hit the greater Los Angeles area just 4 days ago measured an incredible 8.6 on the Richter scale. It left upwards of 80,000 citizens known to be dead. Countless homeless survivors are being forced to find shelter elsewhere.
The most horrifying side effect of the quake has been the meteoric rise of gang-related crime. A certain sick minority is using the suffering to further their own twisted purpose. With the police force stretched beyond its limits, keeping law and order in the city, residents of the beach communities are advised not to venture out.
I clipped it there because it was kind of like loud sounds on each side, so you could tell it was, those two things were fused together. But basically the setup is, okay, there's been a big earthquake in LA, in the LA area specifically, and the beaches are now Mad Max zones. So we don't know that the rest of LA isn't just fine. It's only the beach areas, because all this happens in one stretch of beach. So again, it is Warner Brothers cartoon nonsense, and yet this is the smartest thing the movie does, is it takes it deadly serious. It does not play it up for laughs. There's no, winking to the camera about how goofy. It plays it straight. And I think that is what benefits it. So as the movie starts off, we're seeing everything is wrecked, and we see an older black woman. Her son helps her out of her home that's been destroyed and sets her up in a retirement home, because that's where they're putting people who have nowhere else to go. And so he gets her into this retirement community. And so we see that. And that's going to become important later. In the beginning, you kind of don't know what the connection is going to be, but because then we get introduced to the surf Nazis. And they are a gang of... You saw the one with the hook for a hand, which you don't find out why he's missing a hand till far later, which I like. I don't have the clip of it, but what they tell you is they're talking about their best day, and they're saying what their worst days of their lives have been. For some reason, this gang is having this kind of philosophical discussion. He says, well, the worst days for me were between when the shark took my hand and when I got the shark, meaning he killed it. So it's just like a throwaway thing, but I was kind of like, oh, okay, they saved that for later in the movie. You really just don't know why he's missing his hand. So yes, one of the Nazis, who looks like a Clockwork Orange character, is got a hook for a hand, and that guy has a very frightening look. They cast this thing well as far as the people they got for the different roles. So the surf Nazi gang, at first I didn't know if they were supposed to be the actual Nazis, but this was kind of modern or what, but no, they've adopted the names of Nazis. So the leader is Adolf, the guy, their armorer is Mengele, the hook guy, what was the hook guy's name? I don't remember the hook guy. Oh, his name's Hook. That's right. He doesn't have a special name. There's another guy who's kind of the big, the muscle. They call him Brutus. They don't give him because I thought, well, that's more like Caesar type stuff, but okay. And then the woman who is the consort of the leader is Eva, like Eva Braun. So yeah, they've adopted the names. You only later, and then there's another one who works for them whose name is Smeg. So that one also is not a Nazi name, but he's sort of a side character. And the only reason you know that these aren't their real names is Smeg's mother at one point says, is Ricky Johnson still going around calling himself Adolf? So it's like, okay, good. They've tipped us off that these are them assuming personas. Because at first I thought maybe they were supposed to be the actual Nazis just in a modern surf thing, which would have been interesting, but that's not what it is. They've adopted those personas. So we get an introduction to them based on a speech by Adolf where he introduces himself as the Fuhrer of the beach. So let's listen to this, because this lays out what this gang is all about.
I am the Fuhrer of the new beach. It's well worth taking full control now.
I could go for that.
Shit! Christ! Screw the meeting. Let's just put holes in them, huh? I mean, why don't we cut the campfire girl shit?
Hook, get up on your feet.
Beaches are carrying a lot more than umbrellas these days. You leave your valuables at home, there's anarchy out there.
Yeah, very big business. We could make a real killing.
And we'll nail the scum the way I say it. Got it, Mengele? Do it quick and we'll do it clean. They won't know what hit them. We'll save you open spleen surgery for parties.
So when's the call?
Tomorrow. Ava and I have already sent the invitations.
RSVP in blood for all those who don't show.
And so this setup is a reverse of the Warriors thing, where they're telling all the gangs to show up. So this is, again, very out of the Warriors playbook, where there's different surf gangs, except for one gang who appears to be a biker gang, because we always see them on motorcycles, but they're nearby. Therefore, they are called. All the rest of them are surf gangs, and they have their own uniforms. There's a martial arts gang. There's one that's called the Designers. I don't really know why, except that they've, like, patterned their shirts. There's I think they call them the New Wave gang or something like that. And then there's the bikers. And so the idea is that Adolf is calling them together to essentially tell them, hey, you're either going to work for us or we're going to take you out. And that's the idea, is he's calling them together to say that he's got the master plan to be able to take over the beaches, because you do see at multiple points they show, because in LA this is very common, there's oil derricks everywhere, including on the beaches. So you see them nearby, and I think that's the idea, because they keep talking about Power Beach. You'll hear that in a later clip. And so I think the idea is, now that the cops and the law enforcement are otherwise busy with whatever they're doing, that they can just take over the beaches and, I guess, then control the oil supply. It's never really made clear. I don't think it's really important, because it's not, this movie is not going for narrative heavyweight stuff here. It is just a backdrop for it, but that's, I think, essentially what the idea is. So they get this, they're basically calling all the gangs together, and then they have this meeting, which starts off with a magnificent line from one of the bikers, which is both rhymes and is funny, where Adolf gets up on this platform, and they all have swastikas on them. I mean, but it's so amateurish, it's not even offensive, because, it's clearly just somebody very quickly spray painted them on clothes and stuff like that. So it does look like a bunch of not exactly the smartest people tried to make their own neo-Nazi, Third Reich, and they're inevitably going to fail at it. So there's this kind of ineptitude in everything that, outside of Hook and Brutus, because Brutus is he's the most tactical of them, and he's willing to just kill people, and he's got a spear gun he always carries around. And Hook will just cut people up. So they're kind of the only ones that seem to have any real menace. Adolf, Ava, and Smeg, and Mengele is just a lunatic. He doesn't seem to be able to keep his brain together.
Who looks like the Clockwork Orange?
That's Hook. That's the guy with the hook hand. Yeah, he's got the hat, the bowler hat, and he's kind of wearing a white blazer most of the time. And and he's got like heavy eyeliner. He looks he looks like he's Malcolm McDowell-ish in his basic appearance. And so they're like, all right, we're going to get the gangs together, and anybody who doesn't agree to what we're doing, we're going to just take them out. And so that's the basic idea. In the meantime, we see there's scenes of people surfing, just to pad the time. This is a movie that is definitely padded out. I don't think any of it is boring, but there's definitely parts where they're just filling things in. And then we also intercut that with the mother in the retirement home, who is talking about the fact that, there's a lot of... It's an interesting character in that she's portrayed as, even though she doesn't look particularly old, they're showing her as a more senior citizen, but one who is not accepting of what she sees degrading around her. So she's actually a very strong character, and she becomes the primary character in the second half of the film. But we're just seeing her kind of acclimating, and she's very willing to break the rules of the retirement home, stuff like that. And finally, we get to the actual meeting, which starts off with this magnificent biker line, and Adolf lays out his basic plan.
What's this all about, Kraut?
Sand. We're not getting the most out of it.
I know the coast in my bones, and its potential has never been greater, but we need to work together. My way. Nazi battleships will be patrolling the whole coast soon. Forget about individual colors. Forget about gang territory. We need to centralize power. We need to pull together under the sign of the swastika. Adolf, no! You couldn't handle the power!
Now, I don't know what Nazi battleships he's referring to. We never see any of that, which again makes me think he's just full of shit and that he's just trying to fool them into joining the Nazi gang. But as you heard, one of the gangs, which I don't remember what they call them. They might be the New Wavers. I don't remember. Or no, those are the pipeliners. I don't really know why. Maybe they control a pipeline. It's never really established, so I'm just inferring.
That's part of the pipeline. Isn't that a part of the wave?
Well, oh, yeah, you're right. Yeah, I was thinking more of the oil pipeline because he's talking about the oil and the sand and how we're not getting enough out of it. So I went to the oil part, but you're right. There is a pipeline thing to surfing. Yeah, I was never much of a surfer, so you jumped to that faster than I did. But they're resistant to it. Basically, nobody really wants to work with them. And so they're all kind of like, and they all just kind of split off. So Adolf at that point is like, all right, well, then if they're not going to join us, then we have to just dismantle all these gangs. And so in the background, we then start hearing about Power Beach. And there's a point where the Nazis are moving into Power Beach. And three of the other gangs, which are the Pipeliners, I don't know what the martial arts gangs' names were. They never really gave the names. You just know they're martial artists because they have nunchucks and stuff. They're getting together with, so it's the Pipeliners. I think that's the New Wave, the Designers. The Designers, the New Wave, the Pipeliners, and the martial artist people. And they do put up the flag, the Rising Sun, so I think they're supposed to be Japanese. They are Asian, but they put up a Rising Sun flag, so I suppose they were supposed to be a Japanese gang. I'm just going by the flag. And so they all say, okay, well, we can't let them take over Power Beach, and we need to meet up on that secretly and figure out how we can stop them. So in the meantime, there's a point where they're out surfing, and for whatever reason, Adolf and Ava decide to have sex on the beach, and this upsets Mengele, who says something about it and upsets Adolf, which leads to this magnificent exchange that you're going to hear between the two of them, which really I included because Mengele's ranting about who Mengele was is magnificent, but also the fact that he's calling Adolf pussy whipped and all this other stuff. It's just unhinged. It's exactly the kind of stuff I like in movies like this, where they probably just told them to improv it because I don't really know what else this serves. But it is very funny to listen to, and it's just a funny scene. So let me play this little exchange between Adolf and Mengele post the coital on the beach scene.
Mengele! Mengele! I want to talk to you! I said I want to talk to you! All you ever want to do is talk. All you ever want to do is yuckity, 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 yuck. And you never want to talk and listen, man. That's not true. It is true. It is. This whole operation is falling apart before you. And then you can't even see it for the pubic hair in your eyes. Shut up. No. Where are they near? I'll prove it to you. See where their fucking stars was gone from where your pussy went. You're crazier than me. Goddamn straight I am! Do you know who Mengele was, man? Do you know? The fucking exterminating angel!
And that's the whole scene. I don't know what it really serves, but it's great because they're just yelling at each other. Like I said, I'm pretty sure that's all made up. I don't know that there was a script for that. That just seems like they said, okay, you guys are going to be arguing because Mengele thinks that you're having too much sex with Ava. So go.
The acting is definitely...
oh, it's great. It's just the shrieking, no, it's not true. Yes, it is, man. It's like children. It's great. So that happens. Again, I don't really even know what purpose it serves. But then the next day, we see that they're at the beach hanging out. And I think it's Smeg goes to grab an old woman's purse, grabs it, and he's running, at which point he runs into the woman who's in the retirement home. Her son is there to surf, and he stops him from grabbing the woman's purse. at which point he then invokes the ire of the Nazis and they kill him. And so the next thing we see is then the old woman who's now lost her husband. The husband didn't just die, but she's clearly a widow. Now her son has died, and she's in mourning over it. And she, a couple of days later, she also happens to be at the beach, after attending the funeral for her son. And she's kind of looking out at the water. And it just so happens that right underneath her, Smeg is trying to impress a couple of women by talking about how great the Nazi gang is. And up until this point, the older woman whose name is Mama Washington, we've only been seeing little snippets of her. So you get this idea that she's tougher than she looks, and, she's kind of, she's a little bit pissed off that life keeps dealing her bad hands and stuff like that. But now we start to get some of these magnificent one-liners out of her, which later I have a collection of them. But you'll hear one of the first ones here where you're going to hear Smeg basically say that they killed her son, and that then clues her into what happened, because up to this point, because the cops are so busy and everything else, nobody has any information. All she knows is her son is dead. So I'm going to play this, and right at the end, we get our first Mama Washington one-liner. So here we go.
I'm telling you, we're the hottest gang on the beach. Surfers rule the waves, and Nazis rule the surfers.
You're still an asshole, Smeg.
Yeah, I like the pipeliners.
Oh, screw the pipeliners, they're history.
Nobody thinks the Nazis can rule.
Oh, no, well, you better believe it. I feel sorry for anyone who doesn't. There was a who tried to stop the Nazi wave. He ain't around no more.
Keep talking, white trash!
Okay, so I bleeped out what he said, obviously, because I'm not playing that. But yeah, so she runs down, grabs him, throws him into a wall, and basically makes him spill what happened. So now she knows that the Nazis are responsible for killing her son. So this sets off the revenge subplot for her, which is the best part of the movie in the second half. So while that's all going on, so she starts getting ready to gear herself up. So now the other three gangs, the Asian martial artists, I guess, the pipeliners, and the designers meet up, and they're talking about what their strategy is going to be to try to stop the Nazis, because since they didn't agree to anything, the Nazis are basically going to try to make their own move to capture Power Beach, which apparently is, I guess, like invading Russia, which nobody can do. If you capture Russia, you've got it. I don't know, because they don't really, again, the specifics of what's going on, not the most important thing in a movie titled Surf Nazis Must Die, but that's, I'm just saying. So this is their plan to kind of, they are going to ally themselves to wipe out the Nazis.
Good, you could make it. Are you kidding? The situation is totally fucking unacceptable. I guess you heard they rumbled Jake and Rabbit yesterday, huh?
More bad news, I guess.
They're moving in on Power Beach.
What?
Since when?
Since dawn.
That's ours, man. That ain't Nazi territory.
Well, that's real bright, Max. Except you forget one important thing, man. The quake. The quake changed all that. Adolf plays by a whole new set of rules. Hardcore. Plays dirty. No. I think it's time that we stop playing around. And fuck somebody up. We need a plan.
Right. Acting, also not the strongest suit of the movie, but it works.
I thought his delivery was quite good.
Actually, that guy is pretty good. There are people who you notice are actually good actors among the other people who are just not. And so it's fine. Whatever. In this movie, again, they're playing it deadly serious, so all of that doesn't matter. I'm glad they didn't go for a goofy tone. But when he says that the Nazis are playing dirty now, it's as if they were nice before, but then the quake made them mean. But they're Nazis. I mean, the whole thing where the idea of the Nazis being able to control, it's so out there. But the movie commits to it, so you don't even think about it. You're just like, no, this is the world that we're in. There are surf Nazis. It's fine. So they decide that they're going to try to attack the Nazis in their bunker. They have a bunker on the beach. Again, there's all these things where we're like, yeah, there were Nazi bunkers. So they are kind of borrowing real stuff. They're just transporting it to the beach. And then you just see people surfing and hanging out at the beach as all this goes on, which makes no sense. So again, the movie doesn't stop to explain it. It doesn't care. It just keeps moving. That's fine. And so as they're planning to have this strike, Mama Washington goes to a local pawn shop to buy a gun. And this is her exchange with the guy who runs the pawn shop.
Afternoon. Help you, ma'am? We got pipes here, we got tobacco here, all kind of smoking accessories. We got everything you might want. We got incense burners, we got clay pipes, we got glass pipes, freshly city blend tobacco, anything you want, ma'am. What can I help you with?
I want to buy a gun.
Yes, ma'am. Got this here, ladies' Saturday night special.
A lady's gun?
It's small, ma'am. It's easy to carry. Perfect for a woman.
Well, that's real nice, dear. But I'm more interested in something that'll take the head off a honky at 20 paces.
You mean business, don't you, ma'am? I'll be right back. Got this here, Walther, P38. That'll take more than his head off, ma'am. Take his whole upper body off.
I'll take it. How much?
Just $129.95. I'll throw in a box of ammunition, ma'am. I'll give you any set of pipes you want. I'll give you anything you want, ma'am, with that. You look like a woman who knows what she wants, ma'am. I can get you shotguns. I can get you mace. Hell, I can get you grenades.
Grenades?
So she purchases the gun and a bunch of grenades. And
there you go.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no. The end of this movie is fantastic. So then the other gangs decide to try their assault on the bunker, which goes completely wrong. They all get wiped out. They think they're being sneaky, but the Nazis manage to get drops on them. The only one who is actually killed, and he's killed by Adolf, is Brutus gets acid in the face, which blinds him. And then Adolf says, well, if you're blind, you're no use to me. And he impales him with his own spear gun and kills him. But everybody else makes it out. So the gangs didn't even manage to kill Brutus properly. And so at this point, because they've wiped out the rival gangs, Adolf figures, well, that's it. We've got to run to the beach. You know, we tried to unify, but they didn't want to play with us. So we've killed them all. Now we've got free reign. Because they don't know that Mama Washington is coming for them. And so as you know, they're getting ready to take over the beach, and suddenly they're asleep in their bunker when a bunch of grenades roll in and blow up, which takes out. So Hook is killed, Mengele is killed, and so it's just down to Adolf and Ava, who get onto a motorcycle they take the motorcycle that Mama Washington drove in on. And they take off, and Mama Washington grabs I believe she takes their van. So it's strange. They took the motorcycle instead of the van. She takes the van because they took her motorcycle. So she pursues them and catches up to them in, I don't know, some kind of, there's a bunch of concrete tubing. So I guess some kind of construction site. And so she's chasing after them, and then she gives this magnificent speech explaining why she's after them and that she's going to kill them. So here it is. Mama Washington's big speech in the construction yard.
I know it was you, Adolf. I've been watching. You can only push so much. I can only take so much. I'm your worst fucking nightmare. You hear me? Think, Adolf. Why do you suppose your little blind boy quit coming around? Remember the board? Huh? Remember the grenade? Remember me? Remember my son Leroy? Think hard, Adolf. All that weird shit that's been happening to you lately, I'm the one who's been making it happen. Come on.
So she manages to shoot Ava, and Adolf escapes into a boat. So basically, there's two guys on the pier, and he basically there's some guys. There's two surfers. They go after the two surfers, and they take their boards, basically knock them out, and run away. At which point, Mama Washington comes up and has this magnificent line, which works even out of the context of the movie. It's just a brilliant bit of dialogue.
Ooh, y'all look a mess. Surf Nazis do this.
Right? Great piece of dialogue. I love it. And so they basically are like, yeah, they got us. And she says, where'd they go? And they point. So she goes, and there's two guys who have a boat. And she comes up to them, and she basically pulls the gun on them and says, all right, you're going to help me go find these guys, which we get another magnificent piece of dialogue when she basically tells them what she needs them to do. And that's this.
Today's your lucky day, sucker. You and me are going trolling for some surfers.
And so she takes the guy hostage to go on the boat, and they start chasing after Ava and Adolf, and she manages to... She shoots both of them. Oh, I'm sorry, no. Ava, she runs over with the boat and decapitates her. Great severed head effect. It's fantastic. So runs her with the boat, severs her head. She shoots Adolf, and it seems like he's dead, so she lights up a cigar, and she's kind of... Oh, and the guy driving the boat gets stabbed by... I think Adolf throws a knife and kills him. So she's on the boat with the body, and she's kind of cruising around, and she's very happy with herself because she managed to kill Adolf, at which point he jumps in the boat, and I wasn't sure if he was going to try to get... if he was going to actually kill her or not, but she manages to pull a gun on him, and we get another... This might be my favorite line of hers because of... Again, how silly it is, but it's played straight, where she manages to get the drop on him with a gun, shoves the gun in his mouth, and says this. So yeah, she blows his head off, and then she cruises out on the boat into the sunset, and the movie ends. And... I thought the movie was fucking great. I had a blast with it. It's low budget. Again, all these gangs are, except for the Nazis, it's 3 people tops. It makes no sense. They don't explain a lot of things, like why the cops never show up. I mean, I know they're busy, but you would think somebody might show up. The idea that they would just take over a stretch of beach and that would not later be taken back. There's lots of things where if you try to apply too much thought, it all falls apart.
It's definitely an absurdist.
It is. It's ridiculous. But again,
you know what? There's a lot of '80s movies like that.
Well, there are.
You stop and you go, in context, this makes no sense. But it's if you just get into the weird microcosm of the reality of the movie.
Yeah, the premise is so specifically strange. The fact that they don't try to make it a joke, that's what makes it work. If they had tried to play up the goofiness of the whole idea, it doesn't work anymore. Then it becomes too much of its own joke. It would have become too silly. But the fact that everybody plays it, you can hear it in the dialogue. Like, they're playing it straight. They may not be able to evoke the acting ability to be straight with it, but they're trying. And so, and then when the subplot with the mom comes in, that's great because then she's Rambo. She's arming up. I'd love them to remake this and have more of that Mama Washington character for the movie. More of the kind of idea of her building up and finding out what's good. Because she says, all these strange things have been happening to you. I've been watching. There's really none of that shown in the movie. She says that, but we never see her really kind of keeping track of where they are or what they're doing, and the strange things she says are happening. There's really nothing that happens except the one when she says the blonde guy isn't coming around anymore. That's because his mother caught him, not because she did something. She got the information out of him in that one clip, but that was halfway in the movie or earlier. The reason that he didn't show up anymore is because his mom caught him trying to go out the window to warn Adolf, and she said, "Go to your room," which is also, it's ludicrous. She knows he's hanging out with neo-Nazis that are adopting all these names. And she's like, that's a bad element. You shouldn't be hanging out with them. But they play it straight. Again, they don't make it a joke. The joke is that they're playing it straight. So it's almost like a National Lampoon thing or like Airplane, where they're playing the joke straight. And so that's what makes it work. But it does have a lot of budget limitations. They really couldn't go big with, like the gang should be bigger because they are trying to do a Warriors thing. And in the Warriors,
they don't have the people.
No, they don't, because there were smaller gangs in the Warriors, and then there were larger ones. So the Nazis should have been a bigger gang to be more of a threat, or some of the other gangs should have been more powerful or something, so it made sense that all this was going on, because they really just piecemeal all these gangs apart in 2 seconds. So the premise is really strong as a gonzo type of movie. The problem is without the budget, and, there is some weakness in the acting, shall we say. The narrative perhaps doesn't hold up all the way through. There might be a little bit more explanation or a little bit more of a fleshing out of the idea. But you could really just redo this as is, put a little bit more money into it, and get some better people in it maybe, and it would be a much better film. But even as is, I had a blast with it, because the reviews are kind of mediocre to bad, which is actually a good sign for me with movies like this. So I was kind of like, okay. I thought it was a lot of fun. You can watch it for free everywhere. It's on Tubi. It's on everything. So this is one that's very easy to watch. You don't have to spend a dime on it. And I would say, because again, I passed on it for a long time because, again, I saw the Troma name on it.
It looks kind of trash. That's why.
It does, and it is, but in a good way.
It'll just be bad trash. It will look like it doesn't look at first like it'll be good trash.
Yeah, no, this is actually
lie, things like that.
Yeah, and actually the poster that most people know I don't really like, but there's a secondary poster they use on Tubi's site that's a lot better. It's more serious. It makes it seem like it's a serious, almost like a Charles Bronson film. It's like a chrome skull with sunglasses and 2 crossed boards. So it's like a crossbones thing, and it's a lot cooler of a poster than the one that most people have seen, where it's just the goofy guy that's on the board with the hook hand. Like that's not as good a poster as the other one. So yeah, it's the whole aura of it and the Troma name that kind of made me go, yeah, pass. It's probably not good, but it actually is really interesting. I'm not going to tell you it's got its problems, but those problems don't stop it from being riveting and entertaining. And it's only maybe 82 or 3 minutes. I mean, it's not very long either. And again, I got to the end, I was like, this is actually a really interesting premise for a film. And that's the best kind of thing to remake. I've made this point a lot of times. We've both said this thing is stop remaking stuff that worked. Remake things that didn't completely work, because the core premise I think is fine. I think it's so wild. It could be done as a slightly higher budget, but you don't have to put a lot of money into this. You keep most of the stuff the same, and you just spruce up a little bit of the, hire a few more people, hire a little bit, maybe better actors for the lead roles.
I wonder how much the rights to remake this would cost.
Oh God, I can't imagine it's that much. I mean, I can't even find how much it was made for, but look, it's not high budget. Whatever it was,
who
I doubt
owns it.
Well, I think Troma probably does, so I doubt
they
would probably
it.
They bought it. So I would say somebody could probably license it for relatively little. I don't think Troma really demands much, so yeah, it doesn't have a budget. But again, I don't think this would have to be this could be a, I don't know. I'm trying to think of low budget studios. Like I would almost tell Len to try to make something out of this, and he probably could. I think it's he could probably raise enough money to do it, because it isn't like you have to change a lot. You just have to kind of flesh out, like I said, the middle. The middle has to be a little more action-packed. I would have the gangs. I think if you had the gang encounters be more action setups, more fight choreography, because that's where, their fights are pretty basic. So maybe you have a fight on the water with the surfers that goes for a while. Then you have one on the land. Then you have one on, I don't know, ATVs or whatever, or parasailing or something. Obviously that's a little bit high budget, but maybe one on the roads with vans where they're shooting at you. You don't have to make it complicated, but you have to have more going on than just file footage of people surfing that have spray painted swastikas on their outfits. That's really what a lot of it is. And then, make the story a little bit better. Give us more scenes of the mother kind of watching them, surveilling them, kind of figuring out where they are, secretly messing with them, making them fight the other gangs because they think they're doing it. She could do the subterfuge thing. There's ways to do it where you're spicing it up without suddenly making it into a James Cameron picture. There's a middle ground, and there's a lower middle ground that's easy for a movie like this. You still shoot on the beaches. You still keep it surfers. You don't have to spend a bunch of money on location. L.A., there's all movies there. You could do it cheap. So there's lots of ways to do it. But even as is, it is a Troma distributed movie, not a Troma made movie. So if people passed on it the way I did because of that Troma label, don't do that. This is actually really weird and entertaining. So I would say, Yeah, it's fun, especially because you can watch it for free. I wouldn't tell you to pay $20 to rent it. No, I wouldn't do that. But as a movie that you just watch on an ad-supported network or through a service you probably already have, yeah. If you never watched it, it's better than that crappy poster, and it's better than the Troma name might lead you to think it is. So I would say give it a watch. And that's it. Yeah. So on that note, we didn't really review anything else. We mostly just talked about CrowdStrike for like 50 minutes.
Technology,
Yeah, technology. So, if you were affected by that, sorry. Call whoever your Congress creature is and say, hey, do something about this. I guess that's the...
that's a good term for it.
I didn't come up with that. Somebody else did. I've heard that term a bunch
good,
of times.
But it's really
it's very good.
Yeah.
Yeah, so contact your Congress creature in whatever way you can and say, hey, this can't go on. Maybe something will happen. Probably won't, but might. And in the meantime, if you don't think that's going to help you with anything, then watch this very low-budget vision of a future that envisions that somehow some random surf morons decide that they can recreate the Reich because they want to own an oil derrick in L.A. and just kind of turn your brain off and marvel at the fact that this film exists in whatever form it does. And on that note, that's it for us this week, and we'll talk to you again next week. Visit OzoneNightmare.com to subscribe to new episodes, browse through our back catalog, or to find links to support the show. Follow @OzoneNightmare on Twitter for the latest episode postings and other show information. If 280 characters just isn't enough, you can always email us, theozonenightmare@gmail.com. The opening theme for the show is provided by Heartbeat Hero. The closing theme is provided by Ogre. Please visit and support these artists using the links in the show notes for each episode.